up. Oh, man, can't you go any faster? Floor this thing.
I can't. It's my wife's brand new car. I'm not going any faster.
You're doing 65 now.
65? Oh, shit. Get your goddamn foot off the pedal. Get in my goddamn car.
Yeah, we're eastbound on 4th. We're in the tunnel. We're in pursuit of a red BMW driver, Caucasian blonde hair. Plate number 2 Boy Adam Henry 174.
Use caution. You are westbound 2nd Street, 2112, southbound Figueroa, approaching 2nd. You're heading straight towards each other. Somebody back off.
Okay, Roger, I got you.
What'd she say?
She said we're about to have an accident.
We're about to have an accident.
Welcome to Motherfucking Rabbit in Red Radio, a real motherfucking train wreck. Here's your motherfucking hosts, the king of motherfucking Porn Town and everyone's favorite motherfucking gimp.
Yes, we did. Oh, little Samuel L on that. Looky Lou. Hey, kids, welcome. Rabbit and Red Radio. Me and our co-host is back. It is me, Theo. You're one weirdo, and of course, I've been saving up for this. So, and with me, as always, is producer Mike.
I've missed that so much you have no idea. And now that we're not in the Twilight Zone anymore. Okay. All right.
I swear to God, it was like The Prisoner. Like you were like questioning reality, and then I was waiting for like a koala bear to gas you. Like, hey.
Look, you know what? Okay, so we were on one stream. Well, obviously we were on StreamYard in the beginning. I started that when we went to video and all that stuff. StreamYard increased their prices insanely. So I was like not paying $88 a month for this. So we went to One Stream Live. One Stream Live was slightly cheaper, but it was giving me a lot of issues. And now this thing, EV Mux or Mux or however the fuck you use it, some French shit. And it's like this just seems like it's better, but the problem is that there's features that I still don't exactly know what the fuck I'm doing. Like I said during the show, and let me or before the show, we were talking to each other and we weren't on the screen. We were in the green room and we were talking to each other. And it was just the VHS VCR background with the ticker going, and we were off the screen. And it's like, this is unreal. This should not be happening. This is not normal. And then there's a thing called studio mode. So if I toggle studio mode on, I see it's like if you toggle studio mode on, you will see what happens. Like any changes that you make to your screen, you'll see it before it goes into effect in the live stream. So there was like 2 studios of us on the screen. There was like the present us and the past us. Or no, sorry, not. The present us and the future us. I felt like I was in the fucking flux capacitor DeLorean. And I was like,
you were in the Matrix. Red pill, blue pill?
Right. It's like, which one do I take? Because I'm over here, but I'm also over here from 5 seconds ago. But I'm over here 5 seconds in the future. What's real? What's not? What happened? What didn't happen? I don't fucking know. It's blowing my mind. It's just
I'm glad we're recording this because that was awesome. Because you were like, you know, it was like Mark Wahlberg in The Matrix. I don't know where I'm at. Okay, there's like 2 screens, and one screen has one thing, and a second screen has the same thing. 2 screens can't have the same thing. Okay,
right?
But they can. Okay.
Yes. It's. You know what? What I'm gonna do is I swear to you, the next time I'm gonna take a picture of it, and I'll show the picture so you can see what it looks like. And then I just clicked on comments to see comments, and I see it just says sample comment. I don't want to fucking see sample comment. I want to see real fucking comments from real fucking people that are watching the fucking show. This is what I want to see. And then see, then there's this capability. Listen to this shit. Or
Oh boy.
or wait, or makes me feel like I'm in fairy that thing land.
You mean like the Pride Parade?
Yeah, it's every day. Now, why is this? There's a little delay. So I don't understand. Yes. Now there's a little delay. I don't understand if when I hit this now, I don't have studio mode on. I don't want to see changes. When I hit it, just play it. Thank you. Okay. All
Isn't
right,
it cool when you
again,
have?
okay?
Isn't it cool when you have new toys? And you're like, what does this do?
Oh, right, and I'm still just trying to figure it. Like, am I ever like? And wait, did I? Hold on, I'm trying to think. I never broadcasted with this before because the Angry Cripple show I did a few weeks ago, we were still on one stream. It was before I switched to this one. So this
so
is the
you're
inaugural
right.
broadcast with this software.
So you're Charlie
Yeah.
and the Chocolate Factory. You're like, what does this do?
Yes. Yes, I am all for, like, just like we're in the Magic Kingdom now.
That's pretty
Hold
cool.
on a second. There's fucking more music here that I didn't see. Hold the fuck on. Check this the fuck out. This is really fucking.
This is wonderful.
Hold on. Let me see what this fucking thing can do. Give me a second. Wow.
Gentlemen.
Okay, that scares me. We have to turn that off because I'm scared already. Let's
Sounds like
see what
being.
this one does. There we go. Oh wait, and now listen to this one. There's something. So let's say you have to take a piss or something, and I don't want to talk by myself because we all know I suck at that. You can say, "Hey, I have to take a piss," and I'll be like, "Okay, we'll be right back." Oh. or there we go.
Ooh.
Getting a little part-time gamers up in this joint.
Ooh.
There we go.
Stop. Collaborate and listen. Ice is back with a brand new edition. Something. Grab the whole of me tightly. Flow like a harpoon daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? I don't know.
Whew. God, I'm dizzy. Okay, let's see. Is there anything else?
This will be the show, folks. It literally won't be us talking about anything. Michael just hit random buttons and I'll react.
Oh, this one's 5 minutes long. Ooh, this could be a shit break.
Wait, you take only 5 minutes to shit? Well, to be fair, the poop takes a minute. The rest of the time is playing on my phone.
Right, exactly. I have solitaire cash that's just I play for gems all day long. Yes. Background techno loop. All right, here we go. We're cruising now. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna have too much fun with this. We gotta like this. I just, you know what? I'm gonna just get on here and do like a special show where I just play with myself with everything for like hours.
I mean, that could literally be the show, and that's not a bad thing. Like, I mean, I've seen worse, and I think the genuine. I love some of those videos. I don't watch them as much as I used to. It's not like I watch them a ton,
right?
But when people watch certain movies for like the first time, and they're not recording the movie, but they're recording the reaction more than anything else, and watching some of these people, like there was one about a year ago, and it was somebody who probably around my kiddo's age. that
Oh shit!
watched
I'm
The
sorry.
Matrix.
I figured out how to make us bigger.
Well,
Well, it's
well, to be fair, I kind of knew the secret to that.
well, wait. Okay, so where are the comments now and shit? Okay, I can't make us bigger because now if I make us bigger, I can't have access to the funky music and all that shit. So we got to be small again. There we go. Okay.
Well, yeah, the music reactions is the price of admission right there. But there was this kid, I hate to use the term kid, but like in their 20s, mid 20s maybe, who
Right.
watched The Matrix for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Like knew it existed, probably caught clips here and there, but never sat and watched it.
Right.
Oh my hell. You
Like,
literally thought like in real time he was being born again. He
really?
was oh yeah, his reaction was like, where has this been? And yada yada yada. And in my mind, I'm like, you know, I get that. Because if you're not of the time, like I remember, so the first time I saw the first Matrix was actually in it was actually on, believe it or not, it was a video cassette. That was
Oh,
still a
right.
thing. Yeah, that was still a
Oh,
thing.
wow.
My daughter was 3.5 months old, and she
Right.
just got married last year, and my son was a year and a couple months old. So when I talk about like the Matrix and you know this being
Wow, I'm
a big
sorry. I just
anniversary.
realized how to put comments up here. That is awesome. I'm sorry for interrupting you. But
No, you're
holy
good.
shit, now we have comments. Hi, Morgan. This is wow. Holy shit, I love
Morgan.
it. I'm sorry. It's so great.
No, you're good.
Okay. Can continue with the story. It's great. I love it. Yeah.
And it was one of those things where like you know I'm one of those people where I tend to take more out of time
Mhm.
by the reference point I'm at. Like, what was it, last year? Watched The Mummy, and it
Mhm.
came out the same year as The Matrix, but I watched The Mummy back in the theater, which was freaking awesome because it was like, they talk about, especially nowadays, and I'll get into that with a specific news piece I know we're going to
Mhm.
talk about,
Oh,
but
I'm sure.
when people talk about they don't make movies like that anymore, or I wish they made movies that were meant to be fun, that's where movies hold up. It's funny
Mhm.
how we have what we consider classics that don't hold up, but the movies that hold up the most just want to give you a good time. They're not trying to give you angles, and they're not trying to give you perspectives per se. A lot of
Right.
times it's just craftsmanship at work. And in the case of The
Mhm.
Mummy, like, that was a popcorn movie, like an amusement park movie before we had Marvel. And that was
Right.
part of the fun because George Romero worked on it for years. He was going to remake The Mummy for Universal. And they just couldn't, because Universal was like, okay, well, make it a mummy movie, but don't be like gross mummy. And it's like, you gave it to George Romero. Like, have you seen some of the great stuff he's done? You have to understand
Yeah.
that he's going to make a mummy movie, and mummies aren't particularly pretty to look at. Like, mummies are kind of
Yeah.
gross for a reason.
What do you expect?
Exactly.
Like,
Especially considering you give it to George Romero. So,
right.
at the time they were looking to get a lot of their monster IP back on, and here comes Steven Sommers, who gave it almost like an intentional B movie approach, but with an $80 million budget. And it was
Mhm.
literally him going, I want to take Indiana Jones. I want to take, kind of Lawrence of Arabia, a little
Mhm.
bit of Abbott and Costello meet the Mummy, and make this thing. And what's so great about it is so tongue in cheek. Like, there should be a few moments where they look at the camera, and of course they don't, But part of the beauty of it is that they knew it was meant to be fun. Nobody was worried about if this, if an Egyptologist gets, booty hurt and then goes on Twitter and goes, "That's not how Egypt was." I know. I don't need to have an Egyptologist tell me that the shit in the mummy is not accurate. That's kind of the point.
Right.
Even
100%.
if they took actual people that were recorded, actual names, that's kind of like, they say that Gotham City takes place in New York. Okay, well, I don't hear about Gotham City. You know why? Because I know the real New York doesn't really have it. It's just meant to be enjoyable.
Wait, but you know what? It does. And I'll tell you why it does. The Honeymooners, which takes place in New York, Ralph Cramden worked for the Gotham Bus Company. So how can you have a Gotham Bus Company and not have a Gotham, New York? It makes no sense.
Well, there might be a city, but Gotham is referred to as New York. And Gotham City was always mirrored off of New York. That's why I always found it kind of funny because I don't think they've ever really used, at least to my knowledge, I don't think they've ever used New York. Like, the Tim Burton Batman, the first one, that was all London. And then they moved the second one to LA because that was one of his demands. He didn't want to go back to London. And it was cheaper to shoot a movie in London. That's why for a lot of people, Batman Returns is considered, maybe not now, but back then it was considered kind of a bust because it cost twice as much. It was a case of, and studios really don't do this anymore with a lot of filmmakers. At least I don't think so, unless there's not a lot of money on the line. But it ended up being double, and you knew people were going to make more the second time around. But as soon as Tim Burton was like, "Well, I want to make it in LA," it was like, "Oh, well, the cost of labor and materials costs more in LA than London." But they wanted him back so much. Like, they literally let Tim Burton do what he wanted. That's why you get this, sexy cosplay, bizarre kind of movie that I enjoy. But McDonald's was like, how do we sell toys with this shit? Like when he's biting the nose of a person and like talking about like Catwoman as pussy and Batman, believe it or not, actually has less time in that one than I think the first one, which is saying something because you have Jack Nicholson. Yeah. So, it's very unique to see how that stuff kind of gets, looked at, especially many years later. And in the case of The Mummy, when they asked the question, well, does it hold up? The Mummy was never meant to be like a serious, like, period piece. It was meant to be a summer blockbuster, which it was. And I think in many ways, it did that better than another movie that came out that year, 2 weeks later, that really started to make us realize that, yes, technology is great for film, but it doesn't necessarily make a film better by itself. And that was The Phantom Menace. They came out same summer.
Yes. And I remember, and that's the thing, because I saw The Phantom Menace in theaters. I did not see The Mummy in theaters. That was a rental, I believe.
So the first time I saw The Mummy through and through and The Phantom Menace, I actually, I was in Saudi Arabia once again it was my first deployment. And we had this huge movie tent, and you can't drink there, but you basically have, some things that you can do, try to have fun. A lot of people go to the gym and stuff like that on deployment because you gotta fill the hours somehow. But we would get pretty first run ish movies, and we got like we got Deep Blue Sea, we got everything that had come out that summer, the Blair Witch Project, which I just watched again, and oh my god, I couldn't wait for those three little assholes to get abducted. Oh my God! You know, when you watch movies, worse than that fucking Micah from the first Paranormal Activity. When you watch
Oh,
movies and there's certain characters where you're like, yeah, we know you're gonna get drugged somewhere across a building and your fucking throat slit, but
mm-hmm.
it's not just a case of like, oh, you're slasher fodder. It's, oh, we want that to happen. Like we can't we can't take you. And
Mm-hmm.
Blair Witch, I remember first watching it, and a lot of people were freaked out by it. Like watching it in a building full of like, grown, tough men and women who, are in the military, were defending the no-fly zone. We literally have Iraq next door, and they're freaking out over this movie. And because it's found film, it will always have weird pacing. People love to talk about that. Well, I don't get the pacing in found footage. That's kind of the point. It's meant to
Right.
be off kilter because a lot of this stuff is meant to be, kind of edited as such with like
Right.
frames missing and stuff. And that's part of the, why was that frame missing? It's almost part of the conspiracy or the cult of like watching this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember watching it there, and it was, I found it chilling. When they premiered it in Sundance, people lost their minds. The movie was, I think the movie was made for like $40,000 or something. I know it was extremely, made for no money whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And it set off this craze of not just found footage movies, but just, okay, so, and it started kind of the movement with studios having mini majors where like, oh, well, let's make everything an independent movie. Let's call everything an independent movie because it's in right now. Hollywood loves trends more than anything else. So, Miramax, Live Entertainment, all these companies, Caracal, knew how to jump on that. And then you had studios, you had Fox Searchlight and you had Focus Features and you had all these smaller entities that were actually under a big corporate film umbrella. But it was smaller, made for less, and it's stuff that was more daring. So we were able to attract actors that wouldn't normally do this. Yes, they were paid less, but it was like, look, I'm making something independent. But then you got to a point where you were making $70 million independent movies at a time where Hollywood as a whole was making $70 million and starting to get into the constant of $100 million movie, which obviously happened for the first time with Terminator 2, but it was still taboo. Like, what do you mean $100 million for a movie? Like, who's going to spend that? That isn't coming out of their own pocket, like George Lucas, with the Star Wars prequels. And especially at the time with the kind of leverage he still had and the technology he was finally creeping up to with CGI, it was like, well, who the fuck's going to tell him? But that's kind of the downfall of the prequels. Like, nobody told him otherwise. And that's why you get 3 okay movies. You get 1 good one. You get 2 okay ones. So, but The Mummy, and I'm not a big fan of either of the sequels. That Tom Cruise turd is fucking terrible because it is
Never saw it.
It wants his cake and eat it too. And it's so weird how the Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz version has its tone pretty set. Like, you're going to go have fun. This is meant to be kind of a big, sprawling kind of adventure. And it's going to be silly and fun in a lot of places. And you're going to have a good time with it. What I found unique about the Mummy with Tom Cruise was the tone is all over the place. They don't know what they want it to go. Did we want it to be serious? Did we want it to be silly? Especially considering this movie was supposed to kick off a cinematic universe that had, A-listers up the walls. Like, they had poured so much money into trying to start this thing and not get it off the ground, because the movie they were using, first of all, I didn't think they should have used the Mummy as their kickoff. And obviously Tom Cruise, I mean, I don't think he was the worst choice, but it was a case of like, well, I'm Tom Cruise, I'm going to tell you what to do. And it's like, well, no, Universal controls this verse. So you can't, you can't think of this as Mission Impossible. That's at Paramount. You go do that shit over there. And it was very difficult because you had a filmmaker who didn't have a lot of experience dealing with people on set who were like, well, we're doing this and we're doing that. So you can tell almost in real time that the tone is off. And, 1 second they want to be silly. And then the next second they want to be like super serious. And it just doesn't find its balance in the entire runtime. Not to mention, it feels like it was cut short. I actually took my dad to see that because he wanted to see it. And I remember the first time, I didn't hate it. I just didn't get it. And the getting it wasn't the movie itself. It was more back to the cinematic universe thing. Like, oh, this is supposed to kick off something bigger? Like this character? Like I wouldn't have gone with the Mummy number one. If I was going to
think Dracula would have been a better starting point?
Dracula or Frankenstein. And I think Dracula, I know they were trying to probably go against the grain and go against the obvious choice. And in my mind, I'm like, no, go for the obvious choice. Like people know Dracula, like Bela Lugosi and so many others before him. So Dracula connects. Like you talk about wanting to set up a cinematic universe. Well, you have to find your audience and play to your audience. The Mummy would not be the one to do that because yes, it was Karloff, very memorable. But when you think overall, Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon, all these things that made them that house, and it's like, okay, well, let's kick this puppy off. Who are we going to center this around to eventually make a cinematic universe of the Monster Squad? And it's like, oh, well, let's use the Mummy. And it's like, why? And part of that was they were trying to dip their toe into the reboot pool of the first one, the 1999 one. And it's like, no. Unless they're somehow involved, there is an ode to the first one, and it's actually kind of silly. Yeah. And you can't tell if it's meant to be, you can't tell if it's meant to be like, oh, that's supposed to be a part of it, or if it's a sight gag.
But that alone isn't enough to say, like, watch this, I'm guessing, because
it has its moments that are funny here and there. The tropes are all lined up. They're playing all the hits with all the cliches. It's a time burner. Once again, for me, it goes back to the ideal of like, you thought this was going to kick off a cinematic universe. Like you thought this was going to, it's a $130 million summer tentpole movie with an A-lister, Tom Cruise. But number one, he's 55. And number two, he was 55 at the time. He's 62 now. So he has to be wrapping up Mission Impossible. And it's, and kudos to him for what he can still do. But I don't think anybody in their 60s really, regardless of the shape they're in, should be running, be hanging on to planes and stuff like that. Like it's a novel ideal. I like the message of, age is just a number, but as you get older, recovery gets harder. Injury gets easier. And it's not just a case of being able to, just hop along and do this. When the Mission Impossible franchise started, Tom was in his 30s, and he wasn't totally insane yet, but he was getting there. But he was able to still pull this stuff off. And after time, it takes a wear and tear. Keanu Reeves is a perfect example. That man has said time and again, he wants to make a fifth John Wick, but his knees may not let him, and he's 60. And not to mention, he rides motorbikes, and he, like many actors, have been injured in filming and just in life. And once you reach a certain age, the body doesn't bounce back the way it used to. It just doesn't.
No, not at all.
And it's unfortunate because, we all consider ourselves timeless. There's parts of us that really cling to that ideal, and that's not a bad thing. But the other side of it, of course, is like, hey, maybe don't do that. When I went to see Kiss a few years ago with my son for his birthday, Gene Simmons got up on this lift, and he's like 80, 90 feet above the crowd in his 70s. And Paul Stanley is ziplining from a stage in the middle to the zip line and back in his late 60s. And it's like, I love that you can do that. But I know how old you are. So the entire time it's like, don't fall, don't fall. God, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall.
And you think that was there like a pad underneath him, or like one of those airbags or whatever? Anything like that?
Oh no. No.
Oh shit.
No.
So he could have really like killed himself. Holy shit.
Gene and Paul were doing it for real.
Wow.
Oh yeah. And I was impressed for them. Don't get me wrong. Like, I was like, okay, that's cool. But I also know, I'm like, you sure? Like, I don't know, guys. And yeah, when age catches up, the last thing you can do is ignore it. You can rail against it and try to be tough and not give into it. But let's be clear, 9 out of 10 times you can't stray off the inevitable. And it sucks because I think we all want to feel a certain way, and we all love the ideal of like, well, we can still do this. No, it doesn't work like that. And I wish it did. But kudos, and especially in the case of Keanu Reeves, like, he makes peace with it. Like, he's like, yeah, I'd love to do another John Wick. He was like, I'm 60 and I ride motorcycles, and I, have been beaten up left and right, and, I've had my spine fused, a few times. And it's like, yeah, after a while, the dings and dents don't buff out the way they used to.
Hey, but you know what? If he doesn't do John Wick 5, he could always do Bill and Ted 4, and Bill and Ted 5, and Bill and Ted 6. Just keep giving me Bill and Ted's. Do something, Keanu, please.
I don't need a Bill and Ted's 4. 3 was fine. I didn't need a 3.
Well,
as soon as he shaved for it, I was like, no.
It's like, he's really.
Oh, I had a couple of moments where I was like, who the fuck is that? Like, who is this guy? And part of it was him being in so many John Wicks, where that's who I see. And they have a spin-off coming June 6th. They actually moved up the release date, and it's called Ballerina. And
he's in it, I think.
He is. And, when it comes to spin-offs, I have my thoughts.
I'm sure you do, because I don't know about that one.
So it's kind of like the Exorcist thing we've talked about before, where you want to make a franchise out of something.
Right.
But you can't show me like Harrison Ford, John Wick. Okay. The actors are so associated with that you can't even figure out which might be worse between them being recast or there being a spin-off, and they may be in it or they may not be in it. And for me, it's like, well, if you build the world up enough, you are in a place to expand with different characters. That's why for me, it's like, if you're going to recast and be brave about it, and know that you're going to get a lot of flack because it's the age of the internet and everybody has an opinion and everybody wants to speak at the same time.
Mhm.
Or you carry on somehow, spin off, or a sequel without those people, and you let the chips fall. That's why Scream 5 and 6, I feel the way I do. Yeah, they're not perfect, but if you're going to get away from certain people, get away from them. Like if you're going to progress with these characters, you need to be in. Like you can connect the past. I didn't mind the
Yeah.
Billy Loomis thing. I just hated the ugly fucking CGI. Like she could have envisioned him as he would have been now as her dad, and you could have saved a
Right.
ton of money without
But
all that CGI.
but here's the thing, though. But if he's dead, technically he doesn't age. But even still, yeah. So I could see that still. But
But
do
it
you
would be
realize? Cause,
but it would be in her mind. Think about it.
right. Oh
She
yeah,
could have seen a
and she's
she could have seen a picture of him
yeah,
and been
and
like, okay,
she's
that's
fucked
what he
up
looks
anyway.
like.
So
But if
right.
her mind is creating the manifestation, she could go, oh, wow, that's what my dad would have looked like if he was still alive. If Sidney Prescott didn't fucking shoot him and knife him and all that shit. So for my money, like, okay, that's how you kind of keep one toe in the past and one toe in the future.
Right.
Is it ideal? No. Because you're still robbing Peter to pay Paul. And now with the seventh movie coming,
Whoa.
since we're
Whoa,
there,
whoa, whoa. Wait. Now, you're talking about manifestations of people's minds. Okay, so here's my thought. Okay, we bring because now I love Randy and I love Jamie Kennedy, and he hasn't been announced yet, but I'm telling you, he should be. And if he's not, I'm gonna be pissed. I want, oh shit, what's the niece and nephews' names? I forget their character names off the top of my head,
niece and
but
nephew.
Chad and somebody else. Chad and
Oh,
somebody
they're
else,
coming
his
back.
niece and nephews. Yes,
They're
they are.
yes.
So they can manifest Randy in their minds, and he can come back as a helping them and giving them messages throughout the film. And it doesn't matter because he's got like a beard and shit now, but they can just manifest that he has his face all diced the fuck up like he had in Scream 2. So then that'll so he's like butchered and he's like talking to them and like showing them like the way to like save themselves. And then because that was my whole thing, that like at one point I did say like on the show, I forget how many years ago it was, but maybe make it that like Randy is the mastermind and he faked his death and he's the one behind everything because
I don't know if
he's
the
just
faking
that.
could have been pulled. Well, so for those who don't know, and the thing is too is like they're not even under the radar about some of this casting. Like
Yeah, and that's bullshit.
they're bringing all the hits back, and people are like,
Yeah.
why? Why are you bringing them back? So like Matthew Lillard's been announced and Scott Foley. So you're starting to bring back. It's not the murderer's row; it's the murdered row
Yeah.
of characters. And the first question is, why? Like, I know this is supposed to be Sydney's story now because they changed the movie so much
Mhm.
over so many things. What
Mhm.
had happened with someone posting their opinion and it upset people because that never happens on social media these days.
Exactly.
That's weird. Like, who
Yep.
does that? No one. That's who.
Right.
Um, and then they finally, they reached out to Nev Campbell and they were like, we're sorry, here's all the money, here you go, and it 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 shows me a couple of things. And look,
Okay.
I met Nev Campbell and she was a delight, and
As did I, and I didn't speak to her at one word. I
and
just said my name was Mike, and that was it.
I almost went there because I froze, and I don't freeze
Mhm.
with a lot of people, let alone celebrities. I met Kevin Smith, and I couldn't stop talking. I met, Tom Cavanaugh. My
Mhm.
first, hopefully not my last, cast member from Scrubs, and
Mhm.
I've met some of these fantastic people. I met Christina Ricci, and I was at Lockjawed. But for some reason, Jeff Goldblum and Nev Campbell, I went radio silent, and I
You met
just
Goldblum too? Holy shit!
yeah, Goldblum was awesome. Yeah, that cat. Well, number one, that cat can dress. Number two, what you see is what you get. That's Jeff Goldblum does Jeff Goldblum things. You know, just like Christopher Walken. You know, I have this new show obsession called Severance, and he plays a part in it. Severance, oh my God. The last time I was obsessed with a show like this, it was Lost. And I was extremely, oh my God, that I you know what, being up at night, trying to connect dots on Lost, doing the same thing with Severance, like I'm like shaving off like days, if not weeks of my life. Like, oh my God, I should be sleeping. But wait, what does the door handle mean? What the fuck? You know, it's like that Charlie Day gif with him with the board with all the strings, and he's got the wild eyes and freaking out. That's kind of how I feel. But Christopher Walken is in that, and as much as I love the man, some actors, that's who they are. So it's not a case of, you know, oh, I'm taking on another role. It's, you know, as usual, it's you're crazy. This here, Severance. What they do, they take a chip, they put it in your head, and there's this procedure. And you gotta hold still, or you could die. And you don't want to die. It's rare that people die, but it happens. Could someone turn on the AC? It's hot in this room. and he's delightful. And sketch, for those who have watched it. It is, I love shows like that. You know, I've been watching it like over and over, like episodes I've seen. And part of it is to kind of pick up on what I've missed, because you have to be observant.
Right.
But I came to a conclusion, because I've been asked by a couple people, like, why do you watch this shit over and over? Like, why? Like, what are you getting out of it? Well, number one, I love that somebody referred to it as The Matrix meets Seinfeld. And that's pretty accurate. It's weird because that's kind of accurate. For me, it reminds me, it has little touches of, for those who know, for those who have geek street cred, it reminds me of The Prisoner from the 60s, which only had 17 episodes. But it was the ideal of questioning reality. Like, just because something's in front of you, how real is it? Do we make it real? Or is it real? And then, because you haven't seen Severance yet, right?
I have not, no.
Okay. Do you know like the basic premise of it?
I do not. Only what you've said about it.
Okay, so I'll give a quick rundown, and I'll try not to stumble down the rabbit sinkhole. So the series takes place in, I think it's a place in New Jersey. And it's all during the winter, so like half the time they show these beautiful glamour shots, and I'm like, oh my God, you're making me fucking cold. And that's saying something, because I live in fucking Utah and it's February.
Right.
So it centers around this guy, Mark, who works for this company. The company's called Lumen, you know, the evil corporation. And he has chosen, now that's kind of the key here, and kind of some of the subject matter they play with is very specific to this, is he decided to undergo a procedure, and it's nicknamed Severance. So here's the thing. The procedure is basically they drill a hole in your skull.
Right.
And they place a chip in your brain. What this allows is, when you're outside of work, you have your normal life. Okay. when you go
Yes.
into work, and now there's also different names for these people. You have outies and innies. Innies is when you're at Lumen. Okay.
Right.
Now they have what's called the severed floor, and you go downstairs, and in the elevator, the chip activates. So there's a version of you that exists without your outside memories.
Mm-hmm.
Your mind, basically your brain is bifurcated. So anything you were dealing with on the outside world, you don't have to deal with. You know how coworkers are like, oh, my kid was sick and blah, 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 and all this. Basically, you have a version of yourself that goes to work and doesn't have any outside memories. So you go to work for 8 or 9 hours. Yeah, you go to work for 8 or 9 hours doing what you're supposed to do. Now, their work is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't really give you spoilers because I have a theory. But if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to try to spoil anything. But basically,
I almost want to watch it now.
Oh, I think you would enjoy it.
How many episodes are there? Like 8?
So they're in the middle of the second season. The first season has 8 or 9. And then this season is going to have like 10. So it's a pretty easy binge, but it's a lot to take in. And it's photographed, especially the severed floor is photographed in such a way where it's meant to be a very unassuming kind of neutral, non-threatening workplace, to the point where it feels fake, where you're like, okay, we know some shit happens here. And one thing they play with is, there used to be a time where you went to work, you go to work, you do your job, you stand by that work, and then you go to fuck home. Well, somewhere along the way, all the corporate fat cats, all those fuckheads, decided that they wanted people's interests in the company to go further, but not in a real way. Like, we don't want to pay bonuses, but we'll give you a pizza party and we'll give you a mug with the company's name on it. Right. So this show plays with how companies want people to give in, when they talk about like the work family bullshit, and they talk about like, we're all family here. Yeah, family, like the fucking Mansons. A lot of that rhetoric and all that stupid shit that they like to toss around to make people feel included, they play with that here because it's meant to feel inclusive, almost like a cult. And you will see what I mean if and when you watch it. But now remember the other side of this scenario with Severance. So when you leave the severed floor, you go back to your outie self. So whatever you worked on, whoever you talked to, whoever you interacted with, whatever you did is forgotten. You don't remember what you did for 8 to 10 hours a day. It's left at work, literally. Now, when they go back to work, those memories come back. But basically, it's a way of shutting off a brain to allow the possibility to have, at the end of the day, like most things, it's about control. And it's amazingly photographed. It's from Ben Stiller, of all people, and
yes,
and the man has always been probably more ahead of the curb than people realized. Even his early comedy, before getting to like Zoolander and other stuff, like Ben Stiller's always been a pretty brilliant mind. And there is comedy here. A lot of it's kind of dry and awkward, but it's actually really funny. And let me take a quick soapbox moment. Oh, hang on. Tropic Thunder is fucking funny. Yes. Tropic Thunder will always be fucking funny. What RDJ did, what they were trying to do with that joke, is fucking hilarious. And nobody should have to fucking apologize for it. It is literally still one of the best, funniest fucking gags to ever happen in a movie. And I still think it's fucking awesome. There, I said it. Because people... Thank you! Because obviously, we live in a
Something.
world now where everybody's got to apologize, and I didn't mean to find that funny, because that's not, that's not appropriate behavior. See, here's the kicker
Mhm.
though. Movies is where that shit takes place, and you laugh at it and you get
Right.
it out of your system.
Mhm.
Then
Correct.
you know better, because that movie actually touched on that subject.
Mhm.
That's kind of the
Yeah.
point. That's the point they were making with Tropic Thunder and the whole blackface thing. And
Yeah.
and then it's like, well, how dare you? And it's like, no. You missed it because you don't see what's in front of you. You see what you want to. And you find it offensive because it's like, well, how dare they? And the kicker is that it would seem, and obviously I don't have exact numbers with me, predominantly it's these guilty white liberal bourgeois day wannabe types who are like, how dare they? And it's the brothers and sisters where it's like, okay, that shit's funny. Yeah, don't go doing that shit in public. And don't do that shit intentionally in a movie to make a white person a black person. But the whole point was that he didn't get it. And it wasn't just blackface. That's the best part of it. Because it wasn't blackface. It was, no, I'm going to try to turn myself black. And because he's an Australian and they don't think like that, it's like, well, I'm just acting. But that was the point. That was the joke. So you realize, hey, that is bad. I can laugh at it here, but when I leave this behind and go in the real world, I wouldn't dare doing that. And it's like, that was the point. When it was done back in the day, it was definitely misappropriated. But
Right.
they didn't see the harm in it, and they didn't understand. It wasn't something that was about them understanding. They just thought it was, hey, let's do this. And it's like, no, because this is right up there with John Wayne playing Genghis Khan. Just don't, no. He does not look a thing like a fucking Mongolian. No, stop
No,
it.
not at all.
But
Not at all.
But to address it is in that portion, a movie is what movies are for. That's kind of the point of art. It's meant to challenge and kind of put things on their head and make people think. And that's what Severance does a lot. And there is a lot of interconnective webs. So Mark's character basically decided to do this so he could he had a wife die a couple years ago, and instead of dealing with the trauma, he chooses to block it out so he can go to work. But he's not healing, because every time he forgets her, that's like putting a pin in it. And then every time he has to come out of work, he has to kind of confront it again, pretty much right where he left off. So that's obviously kind of a biggie. But one thing you're going to learn is that everybody does it for a reason. And some of the reasons are like, yeah, that makes sense. That's why, because of course, some people are like, well, who would do that crazy shit? And it's like, you would be amazed what people do to get through the day, and to be able to look other people in the face, and to be able to deal and stuff like that. So the ideal of, well, no, they're not going to do that. It's like, no, like, people do what they have to do to survive. It's nothing new. And it's not easy, if you will. So I think you would enjoy it. It's very mind-bending. It plays on a lot of those themes about like bureaucracy and like people kind of just being numbers. It reminds me of like Brazil, and not really like 1984, but a lot of it plays with the ideal of what would a work self be like if you didn't have to really address it. The guy who actually created the show, the writer who created the show, he had some job that he really hated, and the notion kind of came across his head where he goes, you know, I would love. It was like a day he came in and he goes, I would love to forget the next 8 hours. Like I would love to just have them happen, me not know any better, and then me just kind of wake up and leave. And he kind of took that ideal and ran with it. And if you really think about it, it's kind of a shitty thought, because these people are thinking that they're making their lives easier, but they have gaps in their memory. Like they do things they don't have an understanding of. They don't connect to it. And in their minds, it's like, well, if I don't have to remember it, I can't feel guilty. I can't feel sad. I can't feel happy. I just do it. And I think for a lot of people, that is, obviously some people would question, like, who would want to do that? And it's like, a lot of people hate their fucking jobs. And if you could just find a way to like do it almost robotically and not have to think about it at the same time, for some people, that'd be the best thing in the world.
Mm-hmm. Incredible.
I feel like that sometimes. I mean, we all do, but it is very much a case of just addressing kind of these ideals, like the nature of identity. Like, a lot of the characters, especially in the Severed Floor, you have to connect with them in a way that's unique, because usually when we connect with characters, it's about, we know what they've gone through, and the point to which we're seeing them in the series is where they're at because of it. Well, here you have a lot of personality without memory or history. Like, we know as an audience what they've done, but then we have the aha moments when it's like, oh, they wouldn't remember that. They didn't know they did that yet. They didn't, like, a lot of these things, they're it's like Cat's Cradle. Like, they're all very intersective, and it's just a question of when they intersect. So I think you would really enjoy it. It is definitely a mind bender. It is one of those series that I love it as much as I do. And I think I had mentioned, people ask me, well, why the fuck you watch it so much? I love rewatching things because I wish I could have made that. I mean, the money would have been nice too, of course, but the ideal of like something I've thought about and somebody put it into motion and did it in a way that I enjoy to the point where, fuck, I wish I could have pulled that off. The Matrix is one of them. Obviously, the original Star Wars movies is that. Severance is that. Lost is that. Where I click to a lot of these things because it's like, they got it, man. Like, all these things are kind of chemical, like how they resonate with us and how much we enjoy it. And at the end of the day, like, once again, like, I wish I could have done that. I wish I could have made that. Like, I thought about stuff like that. That's cool. I'm glad somebody did that, and did it in a way that resonates, where it's very much like, shit, that is fucking badass. So, anybody out there who hasn't seen it, I highly recommend it. It is a head trip. You will have a lot of moments. And another thing too, the reason why I say it's an easy binge and not just because a season and a half of it is out, Ben probably did this on purpose. This show loves its cliffhangers.
Really?
Oh boy. Really? And I'm not just talking about at the end of like a season. I'm talking about at the end of an episode.
Oh, I hate when they do that, because it's like, I'm still there. It's like I want to be gone, but they suck me right in. It's like, all right, one episode, then that ends. No, wait, okay. One more episode. And before I know it, I'm sitting there for 4 hours, and it's like, no.
Yeah. No, they know how to reel people in on this one very, very well. It's actually kind of impressive. And like I said, a lot of those things, the show knows what it's doing. Like how it kind of, I mean, like Lost was a perfect example. Like they knew how to lure in the audience. And
Right.
I think the shitty part for me with that particular show, the what's it called? Lost.
Mhm.
You know, Severance, people sometimes are like, do these shows know where they're going to end? And sometimes it's almost apparent that they don't.
Mhm. Right.
And in the case of Lost, like when push comes to shove, talk about a show that like the show was satisfying and the series finale was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, if you don't know how to end this, you know, just do the Sopranos ending where you just drop us in the middle of this thing and you let our
Mhm.
minds go. But what they did is they gave what was it, like 7 fucking scenarios at the same time, and it's like, oh, it ended like this. Oh, maybe it ended like this. Oh, maybe it didn't. And it felt
Right.
like, I mean, it takes time to craft these things. I understand that story-wise, but Lost was the show, you know, the first season is fantastic. I think it is literally like landmark television.
Mhm.
And then little by little, you start seeing them working to like explain stuff, but then not remembering what they did before. So by the time you get to like the last season and the season finale, there are so many threads that are not addressed. And when you try to shock and awe your audience to where you're more concerned about that than the actual full narrative from start to finish,
Right.
I think you're going to stumble on your feet. And I think they did that a lot. And I think the frustration, at least for me, was the ideal that, okay, by the time they ended it, they just didn't know where to go. And we've talked about this where when series know they're going to end, they just say, fuck it. And they just throw their hands up in the air and it's like, let's just, you know, we're jobless
Right.
tomorrow anyway. Let's just get to the end.
Yep.
And
That's it.
and it's, I mean, obviously for the fan base, it's shitty, but it puts a tarnish on the show when people don't feel fulfilled. Now, when I say that, I don't mean like the perfect ending they want, because nobody gets a perfect ending in any show that they loved. Like I love Better Call Saul, and I think it was the perfect ending. And some people would disagree, but I'm also a firm believer of the ideal that, well, just because something ends doesn't mean somebody dies, or it doesn't mean this.
Right.
Like it kind of goes as chapters. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like, well, it's done. That's it. There you can end it where the story ends. Doesn't mean the characters necessarily have to end. And there has been for many years the ideal of, well, we got to kill them off, right? And it's like, no, not really. And even more so now, they try to stray away from that because it's not about the story. It's about, well, we can reboot this in 5 years, right? That actor or actress will still do this. Like, we can come back to this. We can put a pin and then come back. So, so for me, you know, some series, they just end to just drop it. But also series that go on too long, and sometimes it happens. I love Supernatural. I consider myself a huge Supernatural fan. When I originally found out that it was supposed to end at 5, and then end at 7, and then maybe end at 9, and then we got 15 seasons, it's like you're gonna get filler.
Right.
And
you're gonna get a lot of filler, it seems like.
And and not only filler, but you're gonna have to rebuff a lot of the mythology you set up. You know, you're going to have a lot of that. Hey, we established that you can't do that in hell. Well, this person can do that in hell. Okay, why can they do this in hell? Because we said so. Like with there being a lot of that, it is more difficult. It is more difficult at the end of the day to kind of buy into it. And, you know, it was just a few years ago that Supernatural ended. But now, when you look at like series, especially the way they're done on a lot of streaming services, like I can only imagine for a lot of these things, like 15 seasons now sounds exhausting.
I don't think they could. You know what? I don't think that any show can get away. I mean, unless you're like a Law and Order or something like that. I don't think you're gonna get away with like a sitcom is not gonna get away with that. Supernatural,
Ugh.
I'm surprised they did, but like I don't think there's too many shows that are gonna be able to pull that off.
Well, and the shows that are still pulling it off are the ones that started way back when, like The
Right.
Simpsons. You
Oh
know,
yeah. Well,
Law
that's
and Order and Law and Order SVU, and you have a lot of these shows that are mainstays, but they started off that way, and they started off in network television in such a way where you could still do that, and they're still able to do it. However, like now, the ideal of, I mean, you can make, I mean, with technology now and digital cameras, you can make
Mhm.
a lot of seasons and it'd probably be easier and you can shit them
Mm.
out to the public pretty quickly. But the problem is
Right.
twofold. One, if you rush it 9 out of 10 times, it's not going to be at its peak. It's probably going to be pretty weak.
Right.
And then
Definitely.
two, the other side of it is now that we live in a time of, ADHD entertainment,
Hmm.
how many people are you going to get to actually follow, sit down and commit to 15 seasons of a TV show? I'm amazed we get some that go to like 5. Like The Boys went to
Yeah.
5, and I'm glad it's ending with 5 because when shows start to kind of show their wear and tear, because
Hmm.
concepts wear thin. Like, yes, it starts
Right.
someplace and then it goes to someplace else. That's the whole point of the series. We watch it here and then it ends there. But
Hmm.
concepts, once they start to really lose their luster, it is hard to keep up. And unless you have, a virtuoso genius of a person who knows how to make that go for that long, I'm
Hmm.
sorry, 15, 15 seasons for a show.
Yeah. That's
I,
that's. I
I,
mean, well, like
I
I watch classic TV a lot. I don't know if you're like into like I watched Leave It to Beaver. I love that show. I've seen the entire series many, many times. That ran for 6 seasons, and that ended with there was 39 episodes a season. The series finale was a family scrapbook episode where they just looked through a scrapbook and showed clips from the past episodes. And then it ended with the next school year. Wally would go to college and Beaver would go to high school, and that was it. That was the end.
yeah, they used to
That
do
was like,
that. They used to do that a lot back in the days with network TV, where you would have a show where they would go back
hmm
and do like a rerun show where they're, the Golden Girls did like Amazing Ones, and that's oh god, I'm so glad they haven't tried to remake the Golden Girls. Like, leave it the fuck alone. Thank goodness.
right.
Um, but the ideal of, I mean, Lost was 6 seasons, and even that seems like a lot now. Like, there's just so much entertainment out there, and it's so hard to
hmm
pick and choose because one, it gets kind of rammed down our throat, and two, if an IP continues to make them money, they're going to force it in some way. There is no
Right.
such thing as something sacred. I mean,
hmm
I love the first Lord of the Rings movies, that first trilogy, and then they've shit on it from there. I will keep watching it in the hope that it will get as good as before. It will not, because that's all about time and place. Like, that's where
hmm
things were at. That's what was pulled off. That's why the ideal of trying to remake this stuff doesn't work when people talk about
Right.
remaking certain things, where it's like, no, that's all a product of what happened. Those people, those actions, this became that. It is not a case of, well, I can remake that. And it's like, no, you can't. You can't copy something like art in that way without it, one, being, fake, but two,
hmm
being hollowed. That's why when they try to revamp and bring back all these, and it's not even like actual IPs. Like, as much as I love Top Gun Maverick, until I saw it, I mean, literally up until the moment of seeing it, I did not need a Top Gun sequel. I got the message. Him and Kelly McGillis fuck on his motorcycle forever.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
it. That was the ending.
Yes.
And we were good with that ending. Why? Because we kind of hoped we were fucking Kelly McGillis on our motorcycle. So
Right. I wanted to get a motorcycle.
Who didn't?
Mm-hmm.
But then fast forward, and it's like, okay, let's bring all this shit back. And Harrison Ford has done obviously a lot of the same thing, but to come back to these things is such a crapshoot because Top Gun was made in like 85. Like, the fact that it made the money it did and pulled off what it did is actually pretty spectacular. And it is an enjoyable summer movie. It doesn't play with the politics bullshit. It doesn't want to fucking, take an angle and ram it up your ass. It is very much America versus bad guy. We take on bad guy. Because Top Gun Maverick is kind of a remake of the first one. Fine. I did not have an issue with that. But just the ideal of where entertainment is and just how the nuance is gone, which brings me to the little segue. And this is something we talked about yesterday, and I know some people that are losing their fucking minds about this scenario. And I get why, but I have a take on it, which I will share. But let me get to the news. So, a few years ago, obviously, Amazon bought MGM, and they paid like $8 billion, and people were like, "Wow, you fucking overpaid." It's Amazon. It's not like they ain't got the fucking money.
I mean,
and they were, it was very much a case of, okay, so you bought MGM and all their debt and all this. Like, what did you get? Well, here's something that people forget. Number one, MGM has like 7,000 movies in their catalog.
Right.
So you have access to many, many classics, some IPs, some forgotten IPs. But ultimately, the first thing that came to mind for many of us was, oh, so Amazon now owns James Bond. Well, that was a half and half, because like many of these type of IPs and characters, the rights are kind of divided. Like, this person owns this person owns that, and they all have to kind of come together and be one big happy family and agree on all this stuff. Well, pretty much as soon as Amazon bought MGM, which connected to Eon Productions, which is Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, and if I have it right, they're brother and sister. But it was basically decided at that point, like, oh shit. Because, like, for a lot of people, I didn't really care for the last Bond movie. I wanted to. And I think part of the problem is like, well, you're trying to stuff a character from then into now. Now, you can update a character, but if you take away certain aspects of them, you're changing the character.
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second about the last one, because I did not watch the last one yet, because it was my understanding that in the last Bond film, wait, no, it wasn't the last Bond film. I'm sorry. It was the Bond film before that Blofeld was in, or was Blofeld in the last one?
Blofeld was Inspector, and he was also in No Time to Die.
Okay, so I didn't see the last two because I was afraid that it would tarnish my Donald, and I can't do that. I can't do it. The man's been dead for 30 years as of now, and I still cannot accept the fact that he is dead. I still get emotional over it, and I cannot I cannot have them tarnish Blofeld because what the Diamonds Are Forever did that enough when they like burned him or whatever the fuck they did. So I can't do it again. I can't. I
Well,
can't do it.
well, I don't feel like they tarnished it because they actually went in kind of a different direction.
Hmm.
And honestly, I don't think they did a terrible job, but I
Mhm.
don't think they did the best job either. And
Right.
for me, part of that is the fact that they were trying to shoehorn stuff from then
Hmm.
into now.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I think it certainly didn't help that, the Bond movies lost their flight of fancy. They became very grounded, which I don't entirely hate because I actually loved Casino Royale and I love Spectre. But
Mhm.
when he was supposed to feel technically grounded in the 60s, but then more
Mhm.
so didn't. And that was just
Right.
kind of the fact that, he was this agent and stuff like that. It was very heightened reality. Well, in the case of the Daniel Craig's ones, it's like, no, this is reality. We're not doing heightened reality. We're doing reality.
Mhm.
And some of them, a couple of times at least, came off like Bond movies. I mean, not
Mhm.
Bond movies, Bourne movies. Sorry, Jason Bourne
Well.
movies. Yeah, same thing. Well, it feels like same thing.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
there, no Time to Die. A lot of it is good, but the overall effect actually really pissed me off.
Mhm. This is why I
let's
haven't seen it.
let's just say, I mean, I could spoil it for you, but let's just say it
Will
is
I
the
be pissed off? Knowing how I adore Donald Pleasance and Blofeld,
no,
will I be pissed off? No.
probably not. Probably not because they do. Okay, so they did something in Bond that I had never
Mhm.
really seen before, and they do the
Okay.
third act of Shakespeare.
Really?
Yep,
Hmm.
yep. To
That's different.
include the main character.
Hmm.
Yes.
Very, very strange.
Oh, believe you me, because I walked out of there. It was finally happening, and Steph knows that I'm a huge Bond fan, so I'm like, I was finally waiting for this.
Mhm.
Daniel Craig is on my crush list. I don't mind saying that. Look at that. If you wanna check out the hotness of Daniel Craig, check out that
Mhm.
Belvedere vodka commercial
Mhm.
where he's dancing in the hotel room.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that shit got me pregnant. Um,
Ah.
and Daniel Craig wanted certain things from a final movie. It took him forever to sign on for a fifth one. He finally did, and the most recent movie left so many fans just jarred and confused, and not because it's weird, not because it's weird that, how do I put it, not because it's weird that they would reboot James Bond, because obviously they've done it before, but
Right.
the ideal to watch, like, I go for fun. A lot of it wasn't fun. A lot of it was
Mhm.
very serious. So many people die as far as like characters, and the plot in and of itself, as far as like, the main baddie's plan, is it's kind of weak. It is very much a Bond plot, but
Mhm.
it was basically a programmable virus
Ah.
right after a pandemic.
Hey, they
You
pulled
know,
from real life,
you
kind of.
know, eh, but I've never gone to a Bond movie to watch James Bond die. The whole
Right.
point is to see him get out of these things and be cool as a cucumber doing it. That's the fucking point. That's why I go to
Mhm.
this shit. It's not,
Right.
it really kind of like well after the fact. It really kind of baked my noodle, and not in a good
So
way.
he
Where it was
died at so at the end of No Time to Die, he
he
died.
dies. Yes, yeah. Fuck that title too.
Well,
Yeah.
obviously there is time to die if he died, so
Well,
that's the
apparently
wrong title. It should just be called Time to Die. Time to Die.
it should have been
That's
called. This is going to be mediocre.
well,
So between all the and there's been a lot of back and forth, of course, rumors about who's going to be the next James Bond and stuff. And you know, Eon Productions kind of had to go toe to toe with Amazon.
mhm,
So, the ideal that it was going to be a long time before we get another Bond movie. A lot of people were like, "Oh shit!" And then hearing the rumors about who
mhm,
might be cast, and because it's taking so long, there are some people who are now, aged out of the role,
right.
and it's like, well, how does this end? Because either they had to come to an agreement or somebody had to falter. Well, there was news yesterday or the other day that uh, Eon Productions had faltered, and not faltered in the truest sense, because look, they kept that ship going for a long, long time,
Right.
and kudos for their wins and their losses, because it's all part of the trajectory, like how we get,
Yeah.
like even in the case of Timothy Dalton, who I don't think was given enough time to really
Mhm.
get there. The fact that Pierce Brosnan had one amazing movie and then three movies, um, it all leads to somewhere. But the control to James Bond, creative control, has been exclusively signed over to Amazon. So Amazon now owns James Bond. So Amazon, if you've heard of them,
Yes.
they're kind of a biggie. But at the
Mhm.
end of the day, I'll be honest. I know how you feel. I want to get your take real quick before we get back to
Yeah.
me, because I have I've read the articles. I've
Mhm.
seen I've looked back at some of the movies and other stuff they've done, and I've come to a
Right.
conclusion, and I have a feeling we're not going to agree, but I want to hear what you got to say.
Okay. So I've got a feeling that you're going to be for this, and I'm just shocked and kind of appalled because, in a sense, look, okay, so Amazon knows one thing really well. Amazon knows how to sell me Blu-rays and 4Ks and Dot's home style pretzels, honey mustard, barbecue, and garlic parmesan,
All important things.
and yes, and they know how to sell me water and other little snacks and my MedRx meal replacement bars, right?
That's where I
And
get my liquid death from.
right, exactly. That's how they know how to do. They know that very well. They know that. Amazon knows that. Amazon does not know James Bond. I know James Bond better than Amazon knows James Bond. Amazon is going to put James Bond in the shitter, and that's just the bottom line. We're going to hell. This is a world that I don't want to live in. I just I want to get on this spaceship and I want to get off. Like this is like I'm just I don't want to live in a world where Amazon controls James Bond. That just doesn't work for me. I just can't do it. I'm ready to like just blow up the world. I'll create my own Spectre and blow it all the fuck up, just so Amazon can't run it into the ground. Because it sounds like Spectre and No Time to Die did that already. So we can't run it any deeper into the crater. We need to lift it up. We need to lift it up, not down, up. That's what I'm saying.
You're gonna start your own. You're gonna start your own Spectre with blackjack and hookers.
Damn right. Damn right.
So
actually, vodka, because it goes down smoother than.
Well, just ensure it. Just make sure it's shaken, not stirred.
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, that's yeah.
So, I'm catching what you're throwing.
Mm-hmm.
But here's my take, and it's taken a minute because I, like many people, had heart palpitations where I was like, "Oh fuck, what the fuck? Are you shitting me? What the hell?"
Yeah.
And
I felt like I drank a fucking whole, like, fucking 3 pots of coffee when
and I'm still a little bit in that camp.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, predominantly, I see this as a good thing. And I will tell you why. So, first off, nothing but love and kudos to Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson.
Yes,
what they
the
did,
franchise die with you. Great.
What they did. Oh no! Now the franchise will never die.
Oh well, we know that, but unless I blow up Amazon, then it will.
They did remarkable work for so many years, steering the ship and keeping Bond with them, because their father was, he was a fighter and he worked tirelessly to keep the name.
Brilliant. I love him.
Yeah. And their work is immortalized. Yes. It's just fact. So you to get to where I'm at with this, you almost have to take that out of the equation. And here's where I'm going with this. Okay. So after the sale, obviously the rights weren't in limbo, but the rights were like, okay, who gets to do what? And part of the issue is when you have rights that are divided, you're not going to always get everybody to agree. And Amazon has a very specific business model. So the fact that they wanted to keep Bond so cinematic for so long is to their credit, but also to their discredit, because other franchises have gone more streaming. And I'm not trying to sully the name and the franchise of James Bond, but Amazon had a hand in it. And Amazon has some okay series, and then Amazon has some fucking amazing series. But they have more series than they have movies. So I think for Eon Productions, that was their big scare, was like, you're going to take this thing and you're going to make it into something people are going to watch on their phones, and you're going to make something that we consider timeless feel temporary.
Right.
Well, that's not far off. But number one, Amazon paid over $1 billion. $1 billion. The last few, so only one Bond movie has made $1 billion, and that was that was Skyfall, which I love.
Yes, Skyfall is brilliant.
Both Spectre and No Time to Die fell short of expectations for pretty obvious reasons. But for them to pay that much money indicates that when they bought MGM for $8 billion and people think they overpaid, they didn't overpay.
Yeah,
they knew that James Bond was a part of this package, along with like RoboCop and other things that they will eventually bring around. So they knew what they were doing. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But think about how long it took for some of these movies to be made with some of the red tape and behind the scenes before Amazon got involved.
Right.
You know, some of these movies had gaps 6 years. And yes, they're expensive. Yes, it's a lot to put together. Yes, they globetrot with a lot of the locations. You know, each movie has like, you know, half the world involved. So it is not something that can just be thrown together by a production company, especially when MGM, the name that's attached to them, was going from like Sony and then going to other companies and then eventually to Amazon. But think about this now. We live in a world, whether we like it or
Mm-hmm.
not, where
Right.
cinema has gone in the crapper.
I don't
And
like it.
I don't like it either. I love going to the movies. It is still one of my favorite things to do. But
Too expensive though. They need to lower the prices back to when I was a child.
when you look at a lot of people, especially after the pandemic, they don't
Mhm.
want to go out. They don't want to spend the
No.
money. And now
Yep.
things are starting due to not going to get on a soapbox here. Due to certain individuals in seats
Mhm.
of control are now
Mhm.
in the process of doing things that is
Mhm.
going to at least seemingly send inflation through the roof, along with
Mhm.
just wrecking an economy to attempt to put another one in place. And then there's a ton of collateral damage. Not going to get into the nuts and bolts of that. We'll see how that goes because only the people who are close to it know the nuts and bolts. I don't. I just know the optics and what I see. Having said that,
Right.
how long did people want to wait for another Bond movie? Because this is a character now that for an entire generation, almost 2
Mm.
generations, was connected to Daniel Craig. And he didn't really pop off that generation. You and me were like, okay, cool. But
Right.
remember, that last movie came out in 06, or the first movie,
Mhm.
Casino Royale,
Right.
came out in
Yeah.
06. And then his last movie obviously was pushed back due to COVID and stuff like that. But he was
Right.
Bond for 20 years and didn't really elicit a new generation.
Mhm.
So now you have to kind of look at it in the context of, okay, how does Bond survive? Because they've tried to make him more modern, and you
Mhm.
can't do that. I mean, by his very character, he's a dude. You
Right.
know, he is a dude. And you can do things to not, you know, really play into like what he was like, you know,
Mhm.
because they're like, well, he was a womanizer and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, so if you make him gay and he does that with a guy, like, is it still the same thing? Or if we get Jane Bond and she's a lesbian, is that the same thing? Because people want to have selective outrage, so they're going to pick on stuff like that. And you
Right.
can make the character without that, or better yet, just make the character the character. If you don't fucking like it, don't fucking watch it.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
it's like so many of these enraging things that, you know, obviously the media and people try to do to like get you upset about something that almost certainly has nothing to do with any of us on a personal level.
Right.
I adore that I have because and remember I live in Utah, so
Mm.
you know these religious nut fucks.
Mhm. Yes.
You know, LDS stands for lunatics dressed semi-formal. Um,
I wish I had a laugh sound effect. Damn it! I'm gonna have to get one for the next show.
get a ooh.
Yeah, I'll have to get all that stuff because I don't have that here, unfortunately.
But you know, I love when people are like, well, this is a sin and this is wrong. And it's like, you know, most people are just trying to live their lives the best they can and try to figure it out as they're
Mhm.
going, like we all are.
Mm. Yep.
And you know, I love, especially here, there's a lot of that where there's, you know, well, they're gay, they're lesbian, or they're trans. Hey, I'm gonna let you in a little secret. One guy sucking another guy's dick does not change the flavor of my fucking cornflakes. Okay. If they're
Yep.
having a good time, Like you know what I mean? Like it's not like a butterfly effect.
Right.
You know, like oh, so two guys are gonna fuck, and then one's gonna take the condom off, and the condom's gonna go in the trash, and then the trash is gonna go in the trash truck, and then the trash truck is gonna go to my apartment, and then the trash man is gonna stumble and touch my car, and when I get in my car, holy shit, I'm gay. Knock it off. No, you're not.
Exactly.
People are just fucking stupid like that. It is absolutely
there's so many people like that in the world. It's unbelievable.
It is absolutely mind-blowing. I know I'm going on a tangent here, but it is mind-blowing how people get outraged and they don't even know why. Like they don't stop and think about it. That's why I've pushed away from social media and so much of this shit because one, it's tiring. Two, it can be infuriating if you feel a person will buy into it. But a lot of it is like beyond our control. And on a normal day-to-day, 98% of the time doesn't have an overarching effect. Maybe in the future, sure. But you have to take each day by day because that's how they come. So, you know, for people to get pissed off about the shit they do, 9 out of 10 times, you know what it is? Besides the control machine at work, it's fucking boredom. And people think they're siding with a fucking cause. And it's like, I'm going to let you in on a secret. No, you're not. You sound like all these other motherfuckers, and it's fucking revolting.
I agree.
Yeah, the shit people get, you know, kind of twisted about. And I know someone might hear this and go, well, you're getting twisted about this. I'm like, yeah, I'm getting twisted about the overall situation. I don't take a side. I personally think, for my 2 cents, there is no God. The playing field has always been leveled against most people. We are all numbers. We are here. Then we're gone. And the only thing that ever existed was what was in between. And even that will be forgotten. So, if you come to the conclusion, like I have, it's just a ride. You take it as such. You do the best you can. Try to have fun along the way. Try to be smart about things. You try to learn. But to get so seething, and I've been there. I've done that. That's why I know the other side of it. To get so seething about these things that has nothing to do with, like, why people hate this person for this or that. And it's like, what does it have to do with you? You know?
Yep.
Like, okay, perfect example, real quick. I know, sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but, you know, and this is something that's gone over and over. You know, the guy who wouldn't make the cake for the gay couple. That is his choice. And if you don't agree with it, so be it. If you feel that you're being infringed upon, you and everybody else. But, you know the way I see it? Because like most people, especially now, I don't see color. I don't see race. I don't see religion. Because that's a control machine by itself. Or as I like to call it, the mythology corporation. I don't see any of those things. If I was a business owner, I would see money.
Right.
If by your principles you don't want to make a gay wedding cake, so be it. But remember, if you don't make it, they will find someone who will.
Yes. They will.
Because remember, regardless of whether or not you make that cake, they're going to go still fucking suck each other off on wedding night. And they should. Go have a good fucking time. Why don't you take their money in the process? Why don't you? That was awesome. Why don't you take their money in the process? See, not that complicated. All right, let's get back to the main point. Sorry, I've gone somewhere else. But it does. But it does go hand in hand with the main point. Where like, oh well, you know, he's misogynist and he's this and he's that, and it's like, but that was always the character. Like, It's like football. They want to make football safer. Football as a game by itself, not NFL as a corporation, football is not safe. You try to make it safer, it's no longer football. If you try to make James Bond more cuddly feely,
Right.
it's not James Bond. In No Time to Die, he has a daughter.
Okay, I'm glad I didn't see that now, because it's like it's okay. So, it's like they're I'm in the Twilight Zone and they're bastardizing it. What am I doing?
Yeah, but that's my point. You know, you're trying to. So Eon Productions were trying to make something still cinematic,
Right.
and they were trying to update a character that comes from the 50s and the 60s. Having it both ways.
Hold on. We missed this comment from
I saw
Morgan.
that. Yes.
Yes, I just had to put that up there for the right price. There you go.
Exactly. Like where's the bad? Like, exactly. You know, it's like that old joke. I'm not gay, but $20 is $20.
Hey, I mean,
yeah.
you know.
And then when you're done sucking somebody off, you still got the $20. Like, that's why the outrage is so false. It's like you just want to get mad because you can, or you saw somebody on TV or on your phone that told you to get mad about it. You know, it's insane. We now live in a time where rage is a commodity and a currency.
Yes.
And I'm glad that I've mostly stepped away from it. My rage is more towards the landscape. It's not because, real quick, I think they're all fucking bullshit and fraud, and I think so many of them across that landscape is just playing like we're playing chess. They're playing for keeps. And as far as like a party, if you will, that's got nothing to do with the fucking cost of tea in China. That's just bullshit on a stick. That's just another name for the same. Yeah, that's just a different name for the same fucking whore. Like, hey, can I call you this? Sure, just as long as you don't kiss me on the lips. Same fucking bullshit, but from a different angle. That's all it is. That's it. But trying to modernize a character like James Bond with people who have held the stewardship for so long hurts the brand. Because number one, don't give me the sacred shit. Please don't give me the sacred shit. Please. Because number one, we actually have, remember, we have Never Say Never Again. We have Casino Royale. We have movies that were offshoots of Bond because of a rights issue. And then you also have Casino Royale, which is, I think it's Woody Allen and David Nevin, but it is literally a farce. It is meant to be a joke. It is meant to be a joke.
Right. It is Woody. Yeah, it is Woody Allen. I'm not sure about Niven. I'm pretty
sure. They've made offshoots in the past. So don't give me this sacred shit. Especially when you have James Bond video games, and one of the best video games of all time is GoldenEye N64.
Ah, yes, I remember that one fondly.
So here's Morgan's.
Yes.
I love Morgan's comment. I'm not in the $20 crowd. Okay, so 40?
Well, I mean 20 would buy me a Blu-ray, 40 would buy me a 4K. So,
See, I think the $20, I'm like either Panda Express or it goes to FanDuel. So make James Bond a trans female. You know, you could do that in like a what if kind of setting.
I mean, you could, but do you know how many people would be pissed off?
I say make him a hermaphrodite then. That way he can only fuck around with himself.
You know what? Then in the sex scenes, when he could be in bed with himself, bending it backwards.
Ooh, I already got a title for the next movie. Are you ready?
Hold on, wait.
Gold fingered.
It's a great one. It's a great one. Love it.
You could play with all of them
I
now.
love it.
I say take those old titles and comply them to now.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of Thunderball, you got Thunder Herpes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. From Russia with anxiety.
Oh, yes.
Syphilis is forever.
Oh God. Oh
Like
my God.
yeah. Golden pink eye.
Oh shit.
Casino Royale with cheese.
Mm-hmm. Don't forget that. Yeah. There's so much. There's so much. It's just the possibilities are endless. But I don't.
Lucy in the Skyfall with diamonds.
Oh shit! I wish I had a rim shot. Oh, I gotta get that for next time too. Oh shit!
Live and
That's
let
great.
gay. There you go. That's a good one. Live and let gay.
Oh, my comments are down. There we go. Oh, he said $1 million, and then the live and let gay. Yeah, that's great.
A view to a pep
That's
smear.
great. Oh shit! I love it. 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 That it's.
No time to diet.
There you go. That's wow.
Problem solved, problem say so right there. So
I mean,
Amazon is going to do something that I know people are uncomfortable with, and I know why. Amazon is going to do something that all the other franchises have done. And remember, it's not to say they haven't done this stuff. They just want to keep it cinematic. Well, cinema doesn't work the way it used to, and it's because there's too many options. Movies don't.
You can't make $200,000 movies anymore. You just can't do it.
Well, $200 million movies.
Or $200 million movies. That's what I mean. Yeah,
well, you can't make $200,000 movies either.
Well, yeah. I mean, but that's exactly what it is. You cannot dump a bunch of money into movies because the problem with that is that you have a movie that comes out in theaters. It's out for like a week, maybe two, and then it goes to PVOD streaming. The premium streaming thing where you pay like $24 to buy it. $20 to rent it, and then it's on disc within like a month after that. So it's like, why go to the movies anymore if you have this quick turnaround?
When you used to have like event movies, like they still try to do, and some of them work and some of them don't, but movies don't look the way they used to. Movies don't get promoted the way they used to.
Right.
It's not just a different time for cinema. It's like a different age.
Yeah.
So the concept of wanting to keep James Bond like sacred in that church just doesn't work. Not in any way as people would hope. So Amazon is going to do something, and I mean, we don't know how it's going to go, but Amazon is basically going to modernize James Bond, whether people like the way they're going to do it or not, and a lot of that is going to be based around. And I don't know, and keep in mind, because people are sitting there pissing themselves, like, well, now they're going to have these weird spin-offs, like maybe like Many Penny's Diaries or Q Branch. I would love to see a Q Branch series because that shit would be funny. I think it could be funny, but there was a time where they actually attempted to make a Jinx spin-off with Halle Berry's character.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
And they had Stephen Frears attached to it, who is an amazing director, like Dangerous Liaisons and The Grifters, like such a talented freaking filmmaker. And he was going to be doing a Bond spin-off. So it's not new that they've tried to do this. It's not new that they would, look at it in such a way and all that stuff. But you know, Amazon makes, a lot of people love to sit there and go, well, these guys, Netflix, Amazon, well, they should only make this kind of content, non-offensive, or don't make fun of this and don't make fun of that. I give kudos to Amazon because Amazon makes what they seemingly let the creator make. Because The Boys, which I adore as both a comic and a show, I remember when they tried to make it as a movie, and it was just too dicey, because the comic is fucking brutal as hell.
Right.
It plays with a lot of stereotypes and addressing these things, and just people were like, oh well, if we throw a bunch of money at this stuff, we have to dumb it down, and we have to water it down, and we have to make it in such a way to where it has to be digestible. And it's like, okay, if you do that with something like The Boys, you're going to fuck it over. Like you're honestly going to shit the bed. And they realized whenever it was pitched to Amazon, and when they figured it out, it's like, no. This shit is politically incorrect, and rightly so. It shows that both sides are all fuck off. Maybe one more so than the other, but it also shows like how the media plays this stuff, how the media plays us, not to mention the ideal that if superheroes were real, they would be so worshipped on this like artificial level. They would be treated like athletes and movie stars, of course. They can digest these nuts. These nuts.
See, you're better at seeing these comments than I am. Damn it, tonight. That's great.
These nuts. I actually have a picture. I need to send it to you. I think I might have, Mike.
Okay. Okay.
When I went last year or the previous year to LA to go see Taylor Swift, and then went to Universal and went to Disneyland, somebody skywrited like in the sky while I was looking up, and I don't know who this message was intended for. But somebody skywrited these nuts.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. I think you did. Now, see, you should have. Now we're gonna go. This is behind the scenes show talk for a second, because you're here. Do you? Well, you're here, but you know what I'm saying. Do you have, like, on the bottom of your screen? Do you see something that shows like a microphone, a camera, a gear? And then you should see something
Share
that next to
screen,
that
share
says
video.
share screen or
Yeah.
share video, right?
Yeah.
So what you can do with that is you can open up another tab on your computer, and you can pull up any picture or any website you want, and then you just click that share screen button, and just you can share the actual tab that you pull up.
Oh, that's cool.
Because that's why I put you in like that. So then that way you can do that. You know what I mean? So you can do that too. You should, you know what I mean? Like, I'll help you get through it if if you need other like help. But I figured that could make it easier. Like, if you wanted to share something in the moment, like if you see a trailer on YouTube, you can go to YouTube and you know what I mean? Like, you can share that stuff too.
Yeah, I actually just sent you the picture again.
You did just send. Okay, well then you know what I'll do? I'll go to Facebook and I'll pull it up on my thing here as we're talking. Yeah.
Yep. We were at the Harry Potter. We were at the Harry Potter Diagon Alley or whatever, that part of Universal. But yeah, I look up and it just says these nuts, and I was like, what the? Yeah, I'm not sure who that was for. And kudos to them for doing something that funny, but it's also like, how much did that cost? Like, how much money did you have to plop down to be like, these nuts?
Okay. Hold on. My messenger's slow. It was loading Sophie Thatcher for a second.
Oh God.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah,
She
that's
is
it.
she is a Betty. She is such a Betty. And I hate to say it like a creepy old man, but yeah, she's such a Betty.
That is coming out on disc, by the way, on April 1st.
Companion?
Yes.
Okay. I'll probably buy it online before that because I really enjoyed that movie, probably more than I expected. We'll get to Miss Thatcher in a minute. I'll finish my Amazon point. They are going to make it accessible, but not have to try to make it palatable. Because basically, there it is. These nuts.
Oh, wait. Hold on. That's not the layout that I wanted. Give me a second. No, that didn't do it right either. Hold on. There we go. That's how we want it. Okay.
Yeah, I look up.
There.
I had a moment where I thought I was. I had a moment where I thought I thought I was hallucinating it at first.
Right. But see, this is why we watch the video, folks.
Yep. No, that was cool because we went inside because they have like the tavern, of course, and they had like a fish and chips, and oh my God, like I could have sworn that fish might have been swimming like an hour ago. Like that thing. I mean, it was really on the plate. It was pretty flavorful for what it was, especially in a place like that. And of course, there you're going to pay like $20 for something like that. But it was actually, I mean, I wasn't hungry afterwards. I wasn't going to run home and get a bowl of cereal. That's for sure.
Right.
But Amazon is going to do obviously a lot of the opposite that Eon Productions is going to do. But this allows the character to survive because honestly, after No Time to Die and the reception it got, is it a horrible movie? No. It is. Is it the most anti-James Bond movie ever? Yes. And it was like a $300 million feature. Like it's insane to think about how much these movies cost. And now you're going to be able to have this character. I mean, obviously there's still going to be movies. And
do you think they're going to cut the budget down significantly or what?
Well, film doesn't work the way it used to. Like you don't have to buy film anymore. You have digital cameras. And you can use techniques in a way that you couldn't before. So I think Amazon is still going to throw money at this stuff. But one, you don't have to wait 5 to 6 years for anything, especially if you're into it, because I love the ideal of anticipation for movies and stuff, but it doesn't work the way it used to because, when you're look at it this way. When you're in a movie theater and you're waiting to go in a movie, you get notifications about 5 movies that just dropped that you could have stayed home and watched. And it's not like it takes away or deters your enjoyment. It is the case of, I'll do that when I get home. But if you're spending more time there, then you won't go back to the movies for another movie theater. That's why the ideal of movies is kind of thrown out the window. And that's why a lot of people, obviously you included, hate the thought of Amazon taking over something like James Bond. But the character's been run into the ground in a way that doesn't work anymore for modern audiences. We're in ADHD entertainment times, and it sucks because movies don't have that feel the way they used to. They don't last. They don't have the impression the way they used to. In a lot of cases, very few movies. And that's why, like for you and me, that's why I go back to a lot of movies. It's not like I don't want to watch new things. Once again, it goes back to this stuff's immortalized. Like the ideal of, and I always reference this, and I probably mentioned it here before, the ideal of like Apocalypse Now. If you try to remake that, what you would get is beyond removed, because it would have to be political. It would have to say something about war, which Apocalypse Now was supposed to. But the ideal behind it was, an assassin was going to go kill a guy because he went insane. And the assassin questions, why did he go insane? And the journey is where the insanity comes into play. Because by the time it's said and done, Willard really becomes Kurtz. Where it's very much like, now you get it. Now you see why this guy went off brief, and this guy went off script, and this guy went nuts. It wasn't a case of, oh, he just snapped. It was a journey. It was a trajectory. And just the ideal of them trying to make a movie like that now just doesn't exist. Another thing that goes with that too is that names used to mean something in cinema, and now they really don't. Because one of my big directors I used to look forward to when the man made stuff, and even his stuff that wasn't that great, was John McTiernan. I mean, the man made Die Hard.
Yes.
The man made Predator. The man remade The Thomas Crown Affair. I love that movie.
Oh.
He made, Hunt for Red October, and he also made some shit burgers. He made, freaking Rollerball remake. But at the end of the day, like, that name would mean something. So when I was like, oh shit, this guy's attached to something, I'm looking forward to it. And you look at a lot of movie posters now, especially with a lot of these newer movies, I don't know who the fuck these people are. They have names of writers, and I get that it's a different generation, and I sound like, get off my lawn, man. But I don't know why I'm supposed to anticipate them. Why do they matter? Especially when a lot of movies, thanks to digital, thanks to so many things, all look the same. Like, a lot of them are trying to imitate something that's come before them in a lesser way. And they love that they have better technology, which is great to a point, but it doesn't make for better cinema. And now another thing is with streaming, and this is where I think the James Bond thing with Amazon is in their favor. Not only can you find stuff, but you see some of these actors and actresses who are considered like renowned, and they make movies that look like shit. It looks like the equivalent now of what Blockbuster used to look like back in the day, where when an actor and actress made a movie that was straight to video, their career was sunk. Like, they were like, are you kidding? You made a movie that didn't come out in theaters? Like, who does that? But now we have actors and actresses who not only do series and movies that never get to cinemas, but from what we just witnessed with our last Super Bowl, they are all for sale. And it's not like they never weren't. But now they don't bother to try to hide it. There was a time, so perfect example is, if you go and look at the YouTubes and you put in Bruce Willis commercial or Arnold Schwarzenegger commercial, you can see commercials they made back in the 80s and 90s overseas that we would never see here at the time. We couldn't. Okay? They would go and make commercials. They would work for a day, and they'd get paid like $3 million to do an ad that would only air in like Japan or Asia. And now they're all for sale. Like, and a perfect example is seeing the Super Bowl. Like, oh, hey, Matthew McConaughey, like, how many ads can you be in for like different companies and stuff? And it's not new, but now it's like, well, they're not even hiding this shit. Like some of this stuff, I just shook my head because it's like, I think, the worst scenario was about 5 years ago, the first Super Bowl with the Chiefs and the Niners, where I saw Martin Scorsese in an energy drink commercial. And I'm like, so this man's going to piss and moan about Marvel movies, but then he's going to turn around and make energy drink commercials. It's like, do I fucking have that right? Marty, pot, I'd like you to meet Kettle. Right. Kettle, I'd like you to meet pot.
Exactly. 100%.
Like that's what it is. And in order for these things to survive, they have to evolve and de-evolve at the same time. You know, through Amazon, you're going to see probably a lot more content than you ever did from James Bond, like in the last 10 years. And I know it feels like selling something that's important and greater than. And I mean, we used to think that, but now it's like, it's just all product and content. And for Amazon to pay $1 billion to them to relinquish the rights, like they're going to go off and retire. You know, mm-hmm. they're going to go buy helicopters that are fueled by unicorn blood. They'll be fine. But knowing that they were up against the wall, they decided to take the money and run. And I'm sure in some way their name may still be associated. But yeah, for them to relinquish the rights, you know, it's a pretty heavy realization that particular franchise, many franchises, they can't just exist in a dome anymore. That's the movie theater, because it doesn't work like that anymore. You know, look at it this way. Severance, which I aforementioned earlier in the show. Mm-hmm. That's a $200 million series per season.
Yeah. Right.
And remember, a lot of these companies, the reason why they can pay what they pay is because their income stream, they're going to be fine. Like you mentioned, like with Amazon about like your water, like I get my Liquid Death and I get my energy drinks through them. Mm-hmm. Amazon has huge contracts with so many businesses, as well as government contracts and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. This shit we order from them, sweat on a rhino's ass. They wouldn't know the difference.
Right.
So they have the $1 billion to give to Eon Productions to be like, well, take care of your baby. You can visit if you want to. We'll tell them all about you. So, you know, it's not raised in like an absentee parent way. But yeah, is it any great secret that they can pluck that down and be like, but now we know that one, there's no more things in the way. We know that Amazon, because they fought this for so long and paid as much as they did, they're going to fast track this shit pretty quickly. And, you know, we'll definitely see a Bond film, if not a series, sooner than later. This is how the brand survives. And I get that people are not fans of it, but movies don't exist the way they used to. And that's probably why I watch more older movies than newer movies, because they don't, you know, you hear about a movie and then it's out like less than a year later. And yes, pre-production takes time and stuff like that. But color timing, editing, that shit used to be done with machines that you put film in. Now it is literally like a perfect example is James Gunn before he released the first trailer for the new Superman, which I'm highly excited for.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
He sent a tweet that he was waiting for the go-ahead, but he had the trailer cut and ready to go on his phone.
I believe it.
So let's think about this, because trailers, I mean, they're still great, but trailers used to be like your first peek into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But now, I mean, it's I mean, I mean, we all carry phones, But
Yeah.
like the ideal that something so monumental for a movie that obviously cost a lot, it's going to be a not just a summer tip pole, but it's relaunching DC films, DC Studios, and it was on
Hmm.
his fucking cell phone. That by itself almost speaks to what I guess you could say is like the minimization of the impact. Like, yeah,
Right.
okay, Superman movie, but like in '78 when the Christopher Reeves one came out, it was
Hmm.
like, I mean, people were like clearing their schedules for that shit.
Right.
And now, but think about it. Now, people want to go to the movies, but the other argument is, well, it doesn't look that great. It'll be on streaming in 2 weeks.
Right. Exactly. That's it. There's no incentive. There's
Nope.
no incentive.
Nope. And people
There,
easily talk themselves out of it because and I'll be honest, like there is a few movies where it's like, oh yeah, that could be cool, but do I want to pay the money for? Or it's not just the
right.
money, it's the effort. Like I
Hmm.
know for some people, Companion, which we just talked about, Companion
Right.
was something because it's already on VOD because people
Yeah.
decided they were just going to wait, and it only took 3 weeks. And I love the movie. I love the ideals it plays with. It definitely has some original points, but also the points that it's making as far as like what it discusses as
Hmm.
as far as like not just the tone, because it is very much a dark comedy, but
Right.
it 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 asks a lot of questions about like, once again, the nature of reality or the nature of life. Like what is considered life? Like what exists as life?
Hmm.
Um and like I said, I mean, it's something I'm glad I saw in the theater. Um, took my son and Steph, and they didn't know too much about it. So when they saw it,
Hmm.
they were like, "Oh!" And that's where anticipation comes into play. But once again, it was available on VOD, 3 weeks later. So
Right.
it's 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 very difficult for a lot of people to get behind movies in the
Right.
sense of hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to make this a thing. Like the ideal of an event
Yeah.
movie.
Well, and because before, when we were younger, there were times like case in point, my favorite film of all time, Halloween 6, took a year between theatrical and VHS release.
Hmm.
It was a year. And my parents wouldn't let me go see that movie more than I love that movie more than my life itself. And even when it got to the dollar movie theater, my father still said, "You already saw it. You're not going to see it again."
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing too. It's repeat watching and repeat value. Like how
Mhm.
many people want to go back unless it's a movie that they're really dialed into? How many people now go back for repeat watches for a movie? When you
Not
don't
many
have
that
to.
I can
Once
think of.
again, it's
No.
the streaming curse. This will
Right.
be this will be here, this will be on here in 3 weeks or a month or whatever. And then these studios almost kind of shoot themselves in the foot because, hey, guess what, folks? If you're not going to watch our movies, we have our streaming services and we make content for that too. And they don't pull punches. Like some of these series, like from an expense
Mhm.
standpoint, like
Mhm.
they're throwing all the money at, and it's like, are you really getting a return on this? Because it's all subscriptions. I mean, granted, it's ads now too, because now you have to pay through the nose to get no ads because now
Mhm.
they have ads left and right. And you know what? I don't mind ads
I don't
because,
either.
well, that way the lie is out in the open where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
it's just free entertainment. No, it's not. Everybody's
Nope.
paying something. Everybody's taking your information and leveling it to make a buck out of
Hey,
it. So it
I'm
might as well just
paying
be there.
I'm paying what is it? It's like 18 a month for Disney, Hulu, and Max with ads. And that's just it. I could pay $30 a month for the 3 of them with no ads, but I don't care that much to pay the extra, like, 10 or so dollars for, like, a few ad breaks. I can sit there and I can do that, no big deal,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's very much a case of we know ad money plays such a huge part in this. Like, to remove the ads, you're not doing anything for me, and I have to pay more for the service anyway. I might as well sit
Right.
for the ads because you're going to get me sooner or later. Like
Right.
a lot of these movies, they get a lot of their budget from ad dropping. Like, hey, we'll pay you this much to put this in it.
Mhm.
A perfect example, or at least what I had heard, was Man of Steel from 2013, where
Mhm.
you had, and it's everywhere. Same thing happened with the first Jurassic World, where
Mhm.
the ad dollars that the filmmakers were getting in, like, practically paid for the movie. Like, Man of Steel was apparently like 225 million when it was all said and
Mhm.
done. And between Microsoft and IHOP and Sears, when Sears was still a thing,
Mhm.
and all these companies and businesses that were in the movie, um, it was over like $150 million in like ad money.
Mhm.
So once again, they're gonna get you. I mean, Jurassic World's a perfect example because, and it's funny because it's almost like satirical because it is a theme park. So you've got Starbucks and you've got Panda and you've got
Mhm.
Coke and you've
Right.
got Beats by Dre and Microsoft and uh Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. Like, all these things are there,
Mhm.
and it's like, hey, we'll give you money for this. Hey, we'll give you money for this. So yeah, I mean, you still have to budget for a movie, but with all the ad dollars just to get their product in there,
Yeah.
somebody's already counting the loot.
Oh,
The
yeah.
the reason why it takes so much money to be made back to see a profit is because you got to turn around and pay everybody else back once
Mhm.
the movie is released.
Right. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
whole thing.
That's
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 the whole thing.
why because people are like, Hollywood math.
Mhm.
How do you make $1 billion? How do you make $1 billion on a movie, but you only see like $100 million profit? And it's like, because you got to pay everybody back.
Right.
The people you took loans out to, or the theater owners, the people who run your segments and stuff like that. You have to pay to get the movie made, and you have to pay once the movie's done because you've still got people on the collar. You've still got, you know, people who also have like actors who have stuff built into their contract where it's like, well, I'll take this bit too while I'm at it. And that sucks because usually that's all embedded fees. That's my
Mhm.
trainer. That's my personal chef. That's my personal driver. Oh, wait, my personal driver doesn't like the car we have. He wants another car. This is what he's going to drive me around in. Oh, the
Mhm.
completion bond? Oh, yeah, there's that too, because I have to pay money. This happened with Red One with uh, Dwayne Johnson, was like
Mhm.
he was keeping the crew waiting for hours. So he was paying, and he was getting the studio to pay for it, but he was basically paying um, people to wait around for him. I guess there was like days on end where there was like no shooting because he obviously has a whole bunch of other ventures and stuff like that. And now more than ever, like the ideal, he's apparently making a Scorsese movie.
Mhm.
We'll see how that one goes.
Yeah, I
But
don't know about that. That's gonna be different. That's gonna be different.
well, even Scorsese can regurgitate his own stuff and make
Mhm.
it great.
Right.
He's done that with a few movies. But if you're, I mean, The Rock has to act here, and not to say that he can't, but he's not going to be like a Dutch impressionist painter. Like he's not a thespian. He's not going to immerse himself in a role. And
Right.
I'm kind of wondering what that's going to look like because he now has a seat on WWE's board.
It seems like his plate is a little too full, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Like, between his energy drink and now he has a men's care product line. And I'll be honest, full disclosure, I wanted to try it, so I did. I bought the shampoo and I bought like the puffy eye gel stuff. So the eye gel stuff feels fine. The shampoo works like a fucking champ. Right. I smell delicious. This shit works so good.
Do you?
Yeah, I fuck yeah.
What is it called? I think I want to get it.
It's called, well, yeah, you need it for your hair.
Well, I mean,
it's called Papa Tui.
This Chrome Dome, yep.
Papatui.
TUI. All right, I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna get some of that. Yeah, I'm gonna get some of that. Before you had mentioned, you were talking about, filmmakers and how the process of films are changing these days, or how films are made are changing. I wanted to take a quick second to alert some people who may not know already, but I believe he's still in the audience. Mr. Morgan Wellborn is making a film.
Ooh, nice segue.
Yes. And
we're advertising sluts.
Oh, there we go. It
yes!
made it bigger. And
yeah, it did.
I don't have my thing up, but I do have a remote part in this film. Woo-hoo! So I'm looking forward to being directed by Mr. Wellborn. I think that's going to be brilliant. I have the.
Is it a porn? Are you going to be a fluffer?
Do you want me to demonstrate what a fluffer does? Because I can do that.
Manchester.
I see. Over the course of the years, I've been famous for my dick sucking impressions. So, I've been told. I've been told on this show before by previous hosts not to do that because
and this is why I adore you.
Because they were disturbed by it. But I have a feeling since you brought it up, I might as well do it here now for you. So let's stop sharing this for a second, so then that way we free this up so it's just us. And now this is so it's been a few years since I've done this. So it's been a few years.
I bet you say that to all the fellas.
and Morgan, here you go. Here's your $20 blowjob, sir. It's
oh my god!
There we go.
So it was you that night in Chili's.
You never know. There we go. That's all I'll say. Whew.
Oh my god.
And
I hope that's in the movie.
The link for Morgan's Kickstarter is in the show descriptions on YouTube. I have to add it to Rumble yet, but it's on all the other things. My heart's pounding now.
It's not the only thing.
And
oh, I've missed this so. I need to make that my ringtone. Breathe. Who's a good little podcast host? You're a good little podcast host. You're a big snuggy bear, ain't ya? Oh, boo, 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 boo. Breathe.
Okay.
Don't die on the air, please.
No.
At all.
No. Because I have my own film to make that I was supposed to release this year, but circumstances beyond my control. Mainly the gentleman who's playing the killer in the film, and I'm shooting the film in his neck of the woods in northeastern PA because he lives in woods, like he lives in the woods, and he says it's all open space, so we can like kill people and do all this shit and not have to worry about permits or police. We could just do whatever, and there's no issues. Well, he informed me the other day that, he's like, well, when do you want to shoot? I said, well, that really depends on you. I said, because I'm casting it basically with people that are there.
Right.
So I only have to worry about getting myself there to shoot it. And so he sends me his like work schedule, or the schedule of how you have to like submit for vacation. And motherfucker, he's got to put in for a vacation like 6 months before it happens.
Holy shit.
So for us to shoot, because I don't want to shoot in the fall because I got a feeling that it'll get too cold. And if I'm in northeastern PA, it'll snow or something up there. And I don't need that shit. So for us to shoot between April 1st and June 30th, he has to submit for that time off by I think it's like December 15th
Jesus.
through January 30th, 2026. So long story short, I was hoping to shoot it over the summer and have it out by September of this year, but instead I have to shoot it between in the spring next year, and I will release it in September of 2026. So if I look here, is this going to have my made a little teaser for that I did put in here somewhere if I can find it. Are you telling me I didn't put it? I know I put it in here, you stupid son of a bitches.
Tell me how you really feel.
You're oh wait, do I gotta click brand? Let me see if I click brand, is it there? Let me see. Don't mind me, folks. I'm still trying to get the hang of all this shit. Oh, fuck! It's not here. Well, I'll have it on Facebook tomorrow. So either way, you'll see it tomorrow because I don't know where the hell. Unless, oh wait, is there? No, that's no. I put it in fucking overlays. Where the fuck? Jesus Christ. This fucking piece of shit. I'm telling you. Just when I like think that I want to fucking are you telling me because I loaded it with my phone that it's not in this studio, that it's in the phone studio? Is this what the fuck you're telling me? Am I in the fucking Matrix again and I don't want to be in there? If I am, let me out.
think you are the Matrix again.
Jesus Christ, I'm somewhere.
Morgan
Let's see,
wrote,
we gotta.
"You don't want to shoot in a place where bugs thrive in the summer." Amen to that.
Oh wait, that was further down. There we
Yeah.
go. There, that's what he says now. Okay. Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
and
Bugs stinky. The bugs stink.
yeah, I don't. Yeah, well, and that's why I hated using ketchup, because when I was a teenager and I made an earlier installment in these films, I used ketchup for fake blood, and I had to put ketchup all over my face,
Oh.
and there were like flies and shit like buzzing all around my face. So I never ate ketchup again after. That was 1994, and I have not eaten ketchup since.
So what would you use now? The typical Carol syrup and food
Oh
coloring?
yeah, now I'm just gonna get the. I'm not using fucking ketchup anymore. Fuck that. No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No,
Sometimes I wonder, like from certain productions, like because I know it's all quote unquote movie magic and all that shit, but I like some productions, like they get it right where I'm like, oh shit, did you get like real blood? And there's some, it's like, why the fuck are you pouring Mrs. Butterworth?
Yeah, that would be something.
Yeah, because there's some productions I'm like, well, there's some productions I'm like, they nailed it, and then there's other ones I'm like, what are they doing?
And and you are going to be in this film that I'm doing. It's just your part is going to be done just like this.
I'm gonna be the fluffer.
So yeah, you'll have to get down with that.
I'd like to fluff a sock puppet, but with someone else's hand.
Well, that
Or
could be
or if,
interesting.
or if my character runs a site that's just mannequin porn.
Yes, that would I mean, I will say that in Circus Satanicus, my character's name is Grendel, and I do play a podcast host, so
Nice.
not too far of a stretch. But you know,
No, that'd be kind of interesting. I'm down. And yes, I'm looking forward to when we do our thing. Especially if it turns into kind of one of those, especially if it turns into kind of one of those where it's like, maybe if I can make Christopher Walken be the podcaster. Wow, that's crazy.
well, see, I would, yeah, I don't want to, I can't give what the idea that I have for you. I can't talk about it on air, or else
No worries.
kind of give away something else. So we'll talk about it at another point. But
I would have a podcast. I would call it Walking Solo, and it would just be me. I wouldn't talk about anything particular. I would just talk about random things that happen. I went outside today. It's hot. So I went back inside. So I went back inside. And it was nice inside. It was cool. Yeah, that I would love if Christopher Walken had a podcast. Like he doesn't even have to fucking talk about like real shit. Like he can talk about like a muffin he had and he thinks they've had too many blueberries in it. Like that alone, it's like, take my money. I wanna see that happen. Take my damn money.
Yeah. That's yeah, I think that's
But I highly recommend Severance. It's a mind bender. And
yeah, no, I've
well, one thing you're gonna like about it too is that, so remember there was a time when we would see science fiction movies and they would have this technology that they thought was futuristic and we thought was cool, but it looked like Epcot Center or it looked like Tomorrowland.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They have that here.
Right.
It's the show is, I guess that's the best way to put it. It's like such a unique experience, and part of why I love it and watch as much as I do is it is literally a show that I cannot help but to have that. Oh, you know, and once again, it's like, man, I wish I could have done that. Like it,
Mm-hmm.
and I love, especially being at an age where I I question things so much more than I used to, like in a way that I never thought I would. And part of it comes with experience and time, but also part of it comes
Mm-hmm.
with also part of it comes with, you know, when you reach a certain point, you're like, you can't help but to be like, is that it? And not in a bad way, but like you learn like things that you used to be afraid of. You're like, okay, this is why I'm not afraid of them. Like I thought it was one thing and it's something else. And then the other side of it where you think it's something where you think it's this and it's not that. You okay?
Oh, I'm getting off my knees. My fucking, ooh, my fucking knees are starting to kill me. So yeah, I'm getting off my knees. That's all.
I bet you
Yeah,
are.
I can. Oh yeah, I can. I really fucking drove it home with the last one there. Ooh,
I bet you did.
damn, that hurts like shit. Ah,
See, you make some of this stuff so easy for me.
I know, right? That's the. Oh, see, and we didn't even say about how like the fucking with the next one how we're well. See, now a little behind the scenes talk again. You know how I had talked to you about potentially doing it where like every other episode would be a Rumble exclusive commentary type deal?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I'm still thinking that's the way to go. The only thing that would preempt that is if we get a guest, since now we're kind of like, guest seeking again. So if we get a guest, then that would preempt the commentary, I guess. Because
Well, actually, it would be interesting if we got a guess. It happened to be a movie they were in, and then we did the commentary.
I mean, see, the only thing is we would have to get somebody that would be really like cool with doing that. That's
Yeah.
the I mean,
Well,
unless
because half the time we'll probably be shitting on the movie, and at one point I might just look at them and be like, "You really fucking sucked at this. Did you get something nice out of it? Did they get you something nice?"
I mean, it's but yeah, we still have to think about that for the next. I know that there were a few things that we talked about, but we gotta firm that up so I can figure out what we're. I'm still trying to figure out if there's a TV cut for Blue Velvet that I can find. Because I know, dude. Because I know if we play like the R-rated cut of that, like if we play like an R-rated cut of like a movie that has like slight nudity or something, I can just like shift the focus to us for certain things.
Right.
So that might work. So we'll have to see how things go. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting, I think.
Well, I love the ideal, like especially with us coming back, and it kind of changes. Like it keeps us. It's that evolution thing again, where it's kind of like, yeah, this is something that's, for us to do that we would do. So it kind of tracks,
Mm,
and especially a commentary, because going back to the whole theater thing, a lot of people now bring like their fucking blankets and pillows, and you would think these fuckers are at home watching
yeah,
movies, and they talk through half of it and look at their fucking phones. I'm like,
yeah.
time and place, folks. Like, I don't say anything. I used to say shit to people, and one, it used to piss me off. It used to ruin the experience. It would ruin other people's experience. And now I'm just like, you know what? I'll focus on me. But it's crass, and and I know I've probably mentioned it before, but I'm one of those people. Like, I remember when people would do shit like that. It
Hmm.
like 30 plus years ago, give or take. if people were doing that shit and being loud and talking in the middle of the movie,
Yeah.
you would have people get up and go, "Shut the fuck up."
Oh,
Like I didn't pay
100%.
like I didn't pay to fucking hear you. And now
Yeah.
everybody's all dainty and you can't do that. So now I just focus on the movie and it's just like these people just look like idiots, number one. And number two, it's like, well, why the fuck did you bother leaving the house? Like
So
like those people who talk in concerts over other people. It's like, why the fuck did you come here?
right, right. So when you go to the movies, right? Do you go like in the evening or do you go like earlier in the day?
I
When you
try to
know.
go depending on when I go, not really so much what I'm seeing. So
Mhm.
usually what'll happen, like if it's something I'm really stoked for, I'll see it on I'll see it on a I'll see it on a Sunday, usually early on, because it's Utah and everybody's at church and shit. So
Right.
kind of have free reign of the theater. It's not too crowded. Snacks are pretty fresh, and the
Mhm.
staff there are really nice. They look like they don't look like they hate their life yet. Where people have pissed them off over like, what do you mean you don't sell gobstoppers anymore? They yeah.
How much
They-
is a ticket normally when you go at that time?
I go about $8-9.
Okay, because when I go, okay, so if I go to the movies, normally it's like it's on a weekday in most cases, and I try to go for like a noon or a 1 p.m. show. Do you know how much it is for one adult ticket to the movies?
How much?
1650.
Holy fuck!
1650 for one.
Oh shit!
And then if you go to get and I don't get, usually I'll just get like a coffee when but sometimes if I get popcorn, okay, a small popcorn is $10. A medium popcorn, which is like a slightly bigger bag, not an overly bigger bag, but a slightly bigger bag than the small, that is like 12.50. And then you've got a large bag, for the large size, and that's like $17 itself.
Right.
And I'm like,
That's insane.
yeah. Yeah, and seeing this is why, like I say, if I'm gonna pay 16.50 to see a movie that is most likely gonna be on streaming where I can rent it or buy it digitally for only a few dollars more and watch it from the comfort of my living room without having to drive to, get to the place and then go in there and, worry about getting snacks and selecting the seats. It's there. You know what I mean? So it's like that's what the movies are competing with. And
Yeah.
it's like I remember back when I was a kid when I would go to like Twilight shows after school. Because when I was a kid, I think I said this on a previous show, I would go to the movies every week. And we would go to like a Twilight show on a Friday, new release movie day,
Right.
and it was like $3.75 a ticket or $4 a ticket. And then after 6 o'clock, it went to $6.75 a ticket.
Holy shit.
But like now I'm living in an age where to go to a movie like before noon is 16.50 for an adult ticket. And then if you go after 6 o'clock,
That's insane.
you're paying like $20 or more.
That's
Dude,
that's fucking
I went
bananas.
I went to see. Let me think. I went to see. Shit. Um, I forget the last. I forget the last movie that I went to see in 4DX. The shit where the water and shit squirts out at you and the seats
I
move and
want
all
to
that
see
shit.
that. We don't have one of those here because it's Utah and Utah's
Dude,
boring.
that's a shame. You know how much it was for like one ticket to get into a 4DX?
Isn't it like $35?
It was like a $30 ticket for that, and that
Fucking
was an early show. If you go to a later 4DX show, then you're paying like $40
fucking
for
hell.
one. But like this is what I'm saying, and this is why like I don't go to the movies because it's like it's not worth it. Because like I said, if there was an incentive where it's like, okay, you're releasing Scream 7 February 26th of, or February 27th of 2026, okay? Unless I'm sure that that movie is going to blow my fucking socks off, I'm not going to see it
Yeah.
because I'm going to be able to rent it or purchase it digitally by the middle or the end of March at the latest.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
Yeah, it's hard to kind of be sold into that when, and I bleed for you on that one because that's crazy to fucking pay that much for that.
Yeah.
So I have a Cinemark mem- uh,
Mhm.
movie club membership, which I love. And for
Right.
$11 a month, I get like a lot of perks. And
Yeah.
one thing too, and I know they're like a corporation, a company, but
Yeah.
they were one of the few places that played movies during the pandemic and really made it a point to try their best because you could tell, for one thing, it's like, you don't want them to get sick and possibly worse off of,
Mhm.
getting me my fucking almond joy.
Right.
Their lives aren't worth that. But also having to deal with people who are assholes and dealing with trying to be good employees, make sure people have a good time, like keep that standard. And
Right.
they did it. Like we went to a couple theaters. Like I remember I took my son to see um Die Hard. They had an anniversary showing on Christmas or before Christmas, during Christmas
Mhm.
time. And
Right.
taking him to the movies, and then because we actually have a couple screens pretty close to us. Um
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, like they did such a good job to try to make it a good experience, try to make it as healthy as possible. People want to be assholes, like I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. And they did their best. And like every time I made sure to really thank them because they don't do tips. I would love to tip them, but I would
Right.
thank them very much. Like, thank you for, giving. I mean, obviously, streaming content went through the roof the second they realized, oh, well, if this pandemic's not going to be just 2 weeks like we had hoped,
Mhm.
we're going to be, we're gonna have some streaming and then some. But then at the time it worked because it helped people get through all that. But then
Right.
the other side of it, of course, was, well, now we've, you know, blown so much money on this, and then like I think Disney Plus is supposed to make a profit like 2028, something like that. So
Right.
that's once again, like they shot themselves in the foot. And like streaming, of course, isn't going anywhere. But
Right.
I was so grateful for them because, obviously staying in four walls can be a lot to bend someone's head around. But also just, for me, going to a movie is not going to a movie. Even though we now
Mhm.
have megaplexes and things of that nature, we don't have movie houses the way we used to. There's literally like one in Utah that I can think of.
Mhm.
And it's downtown and it's kind of like the independent film society, whatever. And even that's not independent. Like they have like stickers and t-shirts they sell. And it's like, this is an independent film. Nobody's buying it. Okay. You're full of shit.
Right.
Like Sundance. It's
Mhm.
like, hey, Sundance, independent film. It's like, really? So why is it $10 for Evian water, for independent film? Like
Right.
it's still corporatized. Um, but they did their best to give people an experience during a
Mhm.
very tough time, very difficult time where people are trying to make sense of all this and take their minds off of it for a couple of hours. So
Mhm.
I love giving them my money. I love, you know, they because like for $11, I get a free ticket a month. I get like a bunch of freebies and stuff like that. And between me and my son, at least, and then Steph, like the three of us, like I get so much mileage out of that membership, like a lot of mileage.
Oh yeah, I believe it. And see, I had one for AMC, but I don't live near an AMC anymore because when I moved to like Warminster, there's only like a Regal cinema up here.
Right.
And I didn't want to just join another thing because,
Oh,
like I said, the ticket prices is like
that explains it. Because we have a Regal that's about 15 minutes from us.
Yeah.
In a town called Taylorsville, which is kind of a dump.
And it's probably expensive as all fuck too, I'm sure.
I love going there to change it up. I actually like their popcorn better than Cinemark's.
Right.
And I love going there at times to change it up. It's kind of nice for different scenery, stuff like that. I took my son to see the new Transformers at that one. And it was fun. I took him to see Bullet Train in that theater, and that was hilarious because that was after when I worked my second job. So it was late and it was a late movie, and it was hilarious because I mean, he watches anime and some of the stuff that I'm into. So I know he enjoys some of that stuff, but he was just blown away at like how just crazy that movie was. And he fucking loves that movie. And I remember a couple times him looking over at me like, holy shit. Because when I saw it with him, it was the second time watching it. So he had a lot of moments where he was like, the fuck?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you can notice what's behind me, but shout out to you, sir. Thank you. I know I said it before, but thank you again.
Oh, you're very welcome. There it is. I see it.
Yeah. That's yeah.
I love when I stumble across stuff, and there are some people I buy like pop figures for, and they're like cool, and then there are some people they're like, oh, I'm in my 30s and it's a toy, and it's like, no, like if you want to take it out and play with it, that's up to you. But
Yeah.
I always,
I mean, I would never play with it, but just displaying it is,
And if you have a black light, you can have real fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like all over. There you go.
I've got the Doctor Strange one like that in the black light.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I mean, that is. Yeah,
we
like
have
when
the Captain America,
and I opened it.
Right.
I never saw anything like that before. Like I was like,
you're welcome.
It's like what? Like, see, like I would never even, because I don't see things like that, so I don't know that they exist. But you're good with that type of thing, because
I pop figures when I got in. I mean, I knew they existed, but I remember going back and looking at like they have Pulp Fiction ones. And they vaulted them, so they're not making them anymore. So you can find them like online, but they're like expensive as hell.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they actually made ones for Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, like it's insane some of the stuff they make, and I get kind of a kick out of it. I stopped buying them the way that I used to because it's not like they're super expensive.
Right.
But what I ran into with them was, so you buy them, you get to look at them, it's cool, all right. But like many things, it just becomes stuff.
Right.
And I mean, we have such a pretty extensive collection, but also a lot of it is stuff. I also have, so speaking of the blacklight ones, I have Elvira.
Really?
Yeah. Hang on.
Oh shit.
If you can make that up.
No, dude. That is amazing. That is really cool. I like, dude, that's awesome as shit.
Yeah.
I love that, man. That's great.
So Doctor Strange,
Hmm.
and I am a crazy Doctor Strange fan. And Elvira for her 40th anniversary.
Ah, yes.
And one of my personal favorites. And it was literally one, like, I'll see a bunch of them and I'll go,
Hmm.
that's cool, but I won't buy them. I'll be like,
Right.
okay. This one, I like stopped dead in my tracks and went, I gotta buy it.
I'm trying to see if I could guess what it is, and I have no fucking idea. I have not a clue. Oh shit!
The White Stripes.
Oh shit! That's what that is. Damn. I didn't, dude. I would have no idea that they would even have that with.
I kid you not. That was one because I'm a fanatic for them. I've seen Jack White twice.
Mhm.
And the second time I saw him, I was like 10 feet from him.
Holy shit!
I adore the White Stripes. And like I
Mhm.
said, I look at a bunch of them and even some of the ones I bought, I'm like, okay, that's cool. Okay, that's cool. And then I scrolled and found that one and went, I gotta have that.
Mhm.
So, and I even
Mhm.
have ones of Scrubs, the characters from Scrubs.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow! I didn't even realize. Yeah, Scrubs is. I wouldn't even think that they'd make them for those characters, but Scrubs is another great fucking show. I love that show.
Well, the bummer is, so we have Turk, JD, Dr. Cox, and Elliot.
Mhm.
And I was happy those were made.
Right.
Those for me was like, that's cool. That's awesome.
Mhm.
But my issue, and look, for whatever reason, they didn't make any more. But because the cast is such a great ensemble,
Mhm.
it's like, how did you fuck that up? Like, why do you not have Kelso? Why do you not have Carla? Why do you not have the janitor?
Right.
You have
Yeah.
those four, and if you're gonna make those things, you got to have that. Like I'm
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
But
It seems like a missed opportunity. I don't know why they didn't.
well, and especially considering so many characters are are just I love, obviously love the show,
Mhm.
but I
Yeah.
also know it is a show where it's like, yeah, it was a group effort in so many ways. Like to have to have that to have that particular group is literally them and just them.
Mhm.
So the ideal of just having four of them out of the many, it feels like a slight. It's a little bit
Right.
of a it's a little bit of a really.
Yeah. No. Exactly. That. That's something you'd want.
Yeah,
The whole. It feels incomplete. Like if I were you,
yes,
I mean, and
yes.
I'm sure in your sense, you probably feel that way. That I wonder
It
how the
it it
revival of that's gonna be.
you know I I don't know what to feel about that. And I honestly have to say, it is a show of its time, and I do think it is a classic sitcom for the most part. But it is very
Mhm.
much a show of its time, and there were jokes even then that
Yeah.
obviously rub people the wrong way because
Mhm.
that's just how it is. So
Right.
the ideal of bringing them back, I love, but I'm also like, how do you and the right comedic minds can make it work. So I don't think they're like gonna just shit the bed. But I
Right.
can't help but to be like, okay, remember the humor here, pretty risque in a lot of cases. And keep in
Right.
mind, that was network television
Right.
way, way, way back when. So the ideal of trying to bring that back in such a way, I don't know if it's going to hold up. I don't want it to be neutered, but I know that certain things from a comedic standpoint, they're not going to be able to do the way they used to. So it's going to change,
Yeah.
no doubt. But to kind of see, and also you got to think about the fact that this is probably going to come out maybe end of this year, possibly.
Right.
The last episode of the 9th season where they kind of shit the bed. Because
I
remember,
don't
the
even
8th.
remember. I don't even remember much of the 9th season because
Well,
it
the 9th season was actually tacked on because for the 7th season, it basically went back to what's it called?
didn't it go back to ABC because it was on
It did.
NBC and then it moved.
Yes.
Yeah.
So during the writer's strike, because basically the 7th season fell on its face, and that was because the writer's strike kicked off, and then they weren't able to finish the season, and they basically had to kind of string together what they had because it was, well, this is as far as we can get, because that season is only like 10 episodes or 11 episodes.
Right.
So they weren't able to pull that off. So after that season, it went to ABC. And when it went to ABC to fill a slot, basically they were like, okay, we think the show's run its course. We want the 8th season to be the last season. And it was even a shortened season. It was like 18 episodes. But it was a full season. It was a full boat. So they ended, in the way where JD leaves Sacred Hearts and it's all done. Like, just, you've tied up the loose ends. Some of these characters, most of the characters had kind of an endpoint as far as their arcs, but some didn't. But that was it, and I was okay with that ending. I didn't think it was like the best ending, but naturally, nobody wants these shows to end. And then on top of that, it's like, well, everybody's going to envision the end differently, so you're not gonna please everybody. It's just not possible to please everybody.
Right.
So ABC then decided, oh, hey, we want, we want to bring it back for another season, to fill another slot. And of course, they were all, are you serious? And a lot of them only appeared in a few episodes because now the creators were like, well, now we have to figure out a way to do this. We have to find a way to get these characters back together in kind of an organic fashion so we can be like, oh, look, they're all back. Because, well, and what they did, like, they didn't have a lot of options. But what they did, and it was a contract thing, like they couldn't get out of it. Like the ABC, they optioned another season. They were going to get another season.
Right.
So at the end of the day, they really didn't have a choice. So what they decided to do was turn Sacred Hearts into a medical school for some reason, and then make all the staff teachers.
Yeah, that I vaguely. I kind of want to go back and watch season 9 again because I don't. I really,
It's
that
so,
is the one I do not remember.
but it's so bad.
That's probably why I don't remember it, because those are the ones
Well,
that I've seen the least.
well, season 8 felt a little tacked on because they were trying to get to the end.
Hmm.
So even that, but they did. Like by the time it was all said and done, okay, you got to the end. And as much as I love the show, like you could feel like it was running its course. And even
Hmm.
NBC was like by like season 6, they were like actually end of season 5, they were like, well, we don't know if we're going to bring it back for a 6. And like seasons 3, 4, and 5 is where the show hit its stride. Like
Right.
those 3 seasons, the show's just fucking hilarious. Like everything was
Hmm.
just so well done. 6 is good, not great. 7 is just weird. And that
Hmm.
was because of the writer's strike, and that was because the season is super incomplete.
Hmm.
And then 8, you could feel like they were just hoofing it out. Like, all right, let's get this shit done, guys. You want to get this shit done? Let's get this shit done. And that's kind of where it fell to, where you're like, okay, they're ready. And it felt ready.
Hmm.
And then ABC decides in their infinite fucking wisdom, it's like, well, we need another season. And then people were shitting themselves like, well, how the fuck, like, how are we going to do all this?
Hmm.
Um, and understandably so. So they bring in these new characters, and one of them, she's a young woman, and she has kind of the JD's, self visual narration
Hmm.
kind of deal. And there's a lot of it you want to love,
Hmm.
and then because it feels so tacked on and rehashed, you don't have a choice. Like you can't look at it and go, that scrubs. Like
Hmm.
even with Turk and Dr. Cox, Zach Braff has like just a few episodes. So does Sarah Clark.
Hmm.
The janitor's not in it at all.
Yeah. I don't
Kelsa's
even know.
not in it at all. I can't remember if Carla's in it. I think she's not.
I don't think so either.
And once again, like it all feels like it was breaking down. And then the young people they kind of replaced them with, like the girl was fine, but not great. Dave Franco was actually in it before anybody who really realized it's like, oh shit, your brother's who? Um,
Hmm.
and there's some characters where it's like, okay, they're funny and legit, but
Hmm.
the fact that you're a lot of the characters feel like imitators to what's come before, and especially when you're pining for JD and Turk and Eagle, and it's just
Hmm.
not there with them. Like that casting spark is not there, and casting is like so important because you look at like especially some of these shows and stuff that I love. It's
Hmm.
like when you hear about who might have been cast and you're like, oh no, oh honey, no honey, no. And it very much is, how do I put it, it's very much that kind of, you become nostalgic for what was better while watching
Hmm.
what you're told is the same thing, and it's like, no, it's
Hmm.
not. Like
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I fucking know it's not. Like, don't bullshit me. Like, and kudos for trying, because they were kind of in a rock and a hard place
Hmm.
when you look at the creators and stuff with dealing with ABC, because they couldn't. I mean, what were they going to do?
Yeah. I mean, you're
Say
right. It
no? They were
happened.
contractually obligated. Well, and to
Right.
break a contract like that usually costs somebody money, probably more than
Hmm.
they want to pony up. So yeah, it's it's a little bit of a bummer. Like, it is one of those things where I can't help but to want it to happen, but want it to happen a certain way.
Yeah, and it almost
And
feels like it's not gonna be what, because you know what, that's the thing with these types of situations, it's almost never the way that you hope or want it to be,
yeah. Well,
and that's
reboots is usually nostalgia milk.
mhm,
Um, and and once again, like, you can tell, like, I have enthusiasm for it, but I also
mhm,
know that, like, the show Scrubs, as it was,
mhm,
stopped being Scrubs in 2009. Well, even before that, in my opinion.
right,
Um, and there's that part of me, I'm like goosing for it, and then I'm like, I know better.
mhm,
You know what I mean? I do have that kind of foresight where it's just not going to be the same.
right, yeah, and that's ugh. It's horrible to think that, it's just ugh,
Well, and we've seen it before. Like, I adore X Files, and when they brought it
mhm,
back, I was like, woohoo! And the first season they did of bringing it back, I actually liked,
mhm,
because they kept it short. To kind of
mhm,
reintroduce all this stuff was going to be bigger than them, and it was like 6 episodes, and I'm like, fuck yeah, like,
right,
keep it in bounds, you know,
mhm,
like reintroduce them, but it doesn't have to be anything spectacular. So they kind of gave
mhm,
it, like, to their credit, they kind of gave it a test run, and I I liked the first 6 episodes. And
mhm,
one thing that really hallmarked that particular 10th season was the fact that people don't always realize, but I guess the best way to put it, the X Files always had a great sense of humor
mhm,
about what they did. Like, the series itself, Chris Carter kind of knew that somewhere in between, all the spookiness and it's all, fate of the world and stuff like that. He
mhm,
had to figure out a way to keep the show light. And he did that predominantly with the characters, especially because I love the fact that past a certain point, they're not like starting all over again, like, oh, we haven't seen this stuff before. Like, they start having
mhm,
a tongue-in-cheek approach to themselves as a
right,
partnership, Scully and Mulder. And that season, that 10th season, the first reboot piece
mhm,
was great. I really enjoyed it, and it felt like X Files. Well, when they went to the 11th season, they put on more episodes than they needed to. They they went super murky with a lot of it.
mhm,
Like, they were setting up a full season again, and then, because the way people are now, especially with series, like,
mhm,
you can't open a can of worms and then not have an explanation. And they did that again, not having the prospect of another season. And the way
right,
they ended it was just shit. Like, I'm almost kind of glad there's been talk of a reboot. They've been discussing it, but
mhm,
leave it alone. I mean, if you're going to reboot it and take Scully and Mulder out of the equation, which is going to be easier said than done.
right,
But personally, I think that's the way they need to go.
mhm,
But Scrubs, All I got on that one is fingers crossed.
Yeah. No, I hear you there, especially after how. Oh, 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 oh.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, I really think, something like that is just leave it alone and let us just relive the glory days of it and just like embrace that, love that, cherish that, and let the people go on and do like Carla is on High Potential now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched the she's on there, and I don't know. Uh,
I think
Zach Braff isn't doing anything that from what I can see.
well he's
So I
doing
don't
that
know.
podcast with Donald.
Oh
And
yeah,
they're
that's
doing
right.
they're doing a bunch of T-Mobile commercials.
Oh yeah, no, they're doing those. I
So
see those.
yeah,
Yeah.
they'll be okay. No, I think, and I'm not sure, but I think Carla, Judy Reyes, who's amazing,
Yep. Mhm.
I think because I think she was on one or two episodes, and they were supposed to bring her back for more. And I think personally, I obviously I don't know for sure, but
Mhm.
she opted out not to do more episodes for whatever reason. But I think ultimately, as certain seasons go by, because just like the pop figures, and I hate to say it, like her character was kind of minimalized. And
Right.
it's like, no, like she was great.
Mhm.
She was a huge piece of those three's relationship, let alone the
Yeah.
hospital, like Laverne and all
Mhm.
that. A Laverne pop
Mhm.
figure would be fucking awesome. With the tooth
Yeah.
missing and the coconut cake she can't eat because she's allergic to
Mhm.
coconut. Oh yeah,
Mhm.
that was another thing where they screwed up because the woman who played Laverne left the series. Can't remember why, but she left the series.
Mhm.
So I can't remember what it was, but they decided to write her off and she died. And then she had a twin sister they called her Revern as like a gag. Yes.
Mhm.
And she happened to be a nurse as well. Go figure.
Mhm.
Yeah. It was when they were getting to the end, they were reaching bad.
Yeah. 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 That's why just let us enjoy and just move on. Have Zach needs to do Garden State too. No,
He's talked about it
I
at some point. Steph loves that movie. That's like one of her
I
all-time
love
favorites.
I love Garden State. That is
Yeah.
fucking amazing.
Got to see it at
Fucking
Broovies with Donnie
amazing.
Darko. They played both those
Ah,
movies. Yeah. That was actually kind of cool.
dude, seeing those together on a double bill, holy shit, that would be
Yeah.
great.
That was during the pandemic too.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
But that was a case of like, what?
Mhm.
But it was actually pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look at us. We're back.
Yeah. That's Oh yeah. No, okay. Yeah, no, cool, definitely. If we're gonna I just saw your I don't know when
No,
you
you're
sent
good.
this, but
Oh, just a few minutes
I
ago.
just okay.
No,
Yeah, I just saw it
I'm glad the cough
cuz
syrup let me hold up as long as I can.
yeah, no, that's great. No, that's no, definitely. We will reconvene and
I'm looking forward to the commentary.
oh yeah, we're going to have to oh yeah, actually we should kind of like decide what that's I know that before you had said something about Halloween 78. Now, on YouTube, if you're interested, or actually, now I don't know if you'd be interested, but I have a 35 millimeter print of Halloween 4
Holy shit.
that's like old school. It's train I have a digital copy of it. If you wanted to, we could run that. It has like, you know what I mean? It's like dirty
Right.
and dusty and scratchy, just like old school going to the movie theater.
I'm actually down for that because one, I mean, that's film, number one.
Yeah.
But number two, that was the first movie they shot in Utah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So we could do that one if you'd be so inclined, and we could use that
I actually
that 35
rewatched that.
millimeter thing.
I actually rewatched that about 2 months ago.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's surprisingly. It's been about 3 or 4 for me, but shit, I can I can fall right back into it at any time. It doesn't matter. So we can do that when that can be the next one,
Okay.
unless we get well, we'll also have to see, because I did reach out to that Smith's publicist and see
Oh yes.
if he'll get back to us and actually do something.
I
But
would l-
we'll just yeah
I would love if it was. I mean, at some point. I mean, first one we should start with a horror movie. But I gotta say, it would be hilarious if we like, hey, what are we commentary reviewing this time? Howard the Duck.
dude, yes, I'm all for it. I think that would be great.
Wizard of Oz.
Hey, dude. Hey, I know you like I believe you liked Wicked, and I didn't
I
I
adore
grabbed
Wicked.
Wicked. I
I
did not watch
adore
Wicked
Wicked.
yet, but I love Ariana Grande, so
I've always been, speaking of, as per usual, questioning reality or what makes up reality. Um, I adore the Wizard of Oz, but you know who else adored Wizard of Oz?
who's that?
Uh, David Lynch.
Oh.
David Lynch applied not necessarily like an Easter egg, but he applied something, and that's
Mhm.
why his movies. I was talking to somebody trying to explain his movies, and I said, I guess the best way to put it is he looked at the duality of the world around him and kind of the connection between those realities. And part of
Mhm.
the trick was, it wasn't a silver lining. Like a lot of his movies, especially his big ones, or the
Right.
ones that I mean, I enjoy. I don't think there's one that I don't like. Wild of
Mhm.
Heart was kind of, I mean, even for Lynch, it was kind of all over the place. But I dig it. I didn't love it. That actually won a
Mhm.
Palme d'Or.
Right.
But a lot of his best movies, are about, testing reality, like the underbelly of something. Like my favorite from him is Blue Velvet.
Mhm.
I think that is I think that's not just a well-made movie, that's like a crafted movie. That's like a masterpiece for my money.
Right.
And it is very much, once again, of the mindset of Wizard of Oz, and he has told people that he very much applies Wizard of Oz to everything. And he has, I think it's online, but it's almost like an audio essay of why he loves the Wizard of Oz, because I mean, the man was literally fascinated with the movie. But like
Oh
Mulholland
wow.
Drive too was about,
Mhm.
these dream worlds and the reality to them, about what exists, what doesn't exist, what does this mean. And you know he was so unflinching, which made him so fucking great.
Mhm.
Like I bawled when I heard he died. I mean, I knew he was in
Yeah.
bad health, but he was one of those filmmakers where it was like, you know, true art tests boundaries, especially with the people looking at it. And you don't have to
Mhm.
explain it to them either. In a lot of cases, the best part of art is the interpretation, is what
Yeah.
they got out of it. And even the people who would hate his shit, he was like, no, that's what they got out of it. He goes, you can't do any more with that.
Mhm.
And And that's why he made a lot of the movies he did. Inland Empire is probably the one I don't care for the most, even though I do like it. And the reason is because he shot that one for like nothing. And he shot it with like a digital camera of the time, not like digital cameras now, where you can get a $4,000 camera that you can buy on Amazon and shoot a movie on it. It's at that level of quality. He had one of those digital cameras from 2006, 2007, which didn't have the same look. Like, it still had kind of a home movie feel, aesthetic to it. It wasn't the same. And that one, especially the message of, the realities, this actress who her career is dwindling, played by Laura Dern. That movie's 3 hours. And even though he has made movies that are long in the tooth and can be kind of time consuming, that one felt like 3 hours for the wrong reason.
Right.
And because that one doesn't even have like layers in the sense of like Lost Highway or Mulholland Drive or even like Twin Peaks. There's a lot, I think, that's going on in the layers, but it's a little hard to focus in because a lot of it, that one particularly, is so dry. He loves not editing. He loves having scenes that just kind of focus. Once again, it's that art thing where it's like, okay, what am I looking at? But there's something about Inland Empire that never really clicked with me. And I feel like maybe I need to go rewatch it because I haven't seen it. I probably saw it the last time about 6 years ago. And it was fine, but it wasn't like, yay, I watched it. Like every time I watch Blue Velvet, that's an enjoyable experience. I love Blue Velvet. Even though it is dark and dank and deals with some super fucked up shit. Like it's a rough one, but it's just crafted so well and shot beautifully. I still think it's one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen shot. Like very much up there with like Apocalypse Now, or like that cinematography takes you there. It's not just like, whoa, it's like, it just feels so, scenes where characters don't even have to say something. Like it just feels immersive.
Right. No, definitely. All right. Well, I guess. All right. So I guess at this point, we'll decide when we're going to come back, and we will see you next time for the Halloween 4.
I'm excited.
The Return of Michael Myers commentary with us. It'll be Rumble exclusive. So join us on Rumble. Won't you?
Please. We missed all of you, Morgan. Thank you so much.
Yes, and thank everyone else for watching, giving us your time. We appreciate it. We love you all, and we will see you next time.
Toodles!